First, so this session, which will be approximately about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we'll be basically looking at critical appraisal of research. Okay. And I have actually split this into two, because critical appraisal of research is one of the fundamental principles of evidence-based medicine. So, to practice and study evidence-based medicine, you have to have a good idea of how to critically analyze a research paper. So, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to evidence-based medicine to start off with. And then we are going to do a practical exercise, as well as a bit of teaching, but it's maybe new to you, on how to look at a clinical trial paper. So, remember that this is a very structured, ordered thing, and there are certain important aspects that we generally look at when you are critically appraising a paper. Okay. Right, so what is evidence-based medicine? So, as I've shown in the slide here, evidence-based medicine was first described by a man called Sackett, which describes evidence-based medicine as a conscientious, explicit, and judicious use of current best evidence. And obviously, these words are obviously quite difficult to understand. So, conscientious means you are looking at it carefully and very thorough. You are very systematic in what you do. Explicit means you are very clear, open, and upfront. And then judicious means you are using your judgment to make decisions. So, all of these three together is evidence-based medicine. Okay. So, evidence-based medicine is actually a combination of three things. You are using your clinical expertise. You are using best research evidence, coupled with patient values and preferences. So that's what you are basically looking at. So that's a thing that you do. And evidence-based medicine is very important in the current setting, because you need to make rational decisions on what you are doing, what decisions you take. And it's very relevant to practice. You come from evidence medicine background, so it's very relevant to practice, because the field of medicine is expanding day by day. It's just exponentially expanding. So you need to keep up with research, you need to analyze research. People may give you papers and say this new treatment is fantastic, and tell you that it's fantastic. But you should be able to judge on your own how good is it. So that's why it's important. And it is a systematic method of assessment that provides the most effective care. And the process of evidence-based medicine is based on 5 steps. It is a continuous cyclic sort of process. And basically, what you do is you start off by asking a clinical question with regard to your patient. So you ask, is treatment A effective for this patient? That's a clinical question. We'll talk about clinical questions later on also. And then what you do is you acquire the best evidence. This best evidence may be from a journal paper, maybe from somewhere online, maybe a book, whatever. So that is, you acquire the best. Next comes a step that we are trying to learn today, is how to appraise or critically analyze that evidence that you gather. And then you would apply this evidence that you gather to your patient. That's apply. And then of course you would go back and see whether you have done anything good, whether you have made a difference, or what you have done. That is a basic cycle of evidence-based. It's a continuous cycle. Right. So that's the first part. So I have given a short introduction to evidence-based medicine. Remember that this sort of program will not end today. We have another session on proper cycle of evidence-based medicine. But to do that, you need a bit of background on how to critically appraise a paper first. So we are going to do that first today. Right. So if you take research, there are various types of research that people do, starting from just observational studies to clinical trials. So to learn how to critically appraise a paper starts from learning how to look at a clinical trial. So that's the first step. Well, that is the most commonly sort of published research that we do. And this is a very systematic methodology in the evaluation. Right. So what is a clinical trial? What is a clinical trial? How do you do a clinical trial? Basically, you start off by looking at a certain treatment option. So you're looking at a drug, effective or particular condition. How you would start a clinical trial is shown in this arrangement. How you would start a clinical trial is you would assess the patients for eligibility. So you would assess a certain set of people to include in your study for this particular trial. So that's the first step. And when you're assessing for eligibility, you use things called inclusion criteria and exclusion. So selecting your population for this study. We are trying to try this drug out. And basically, they will be randomized. And you will be putting them into a minimum of 2 arms. What are these arms? You have the intervention group, and also you have to have a control group. Now, what is this control group? In some studies, it can be just a placebo. Just a placebo, an inert substance. It doesn't have any biological action. In some cases, it can be what? It can be the best existing treatment at the time for this particular condition. So if you are looking at a new drug, which there is no treatment, new condition, there is no treatment at all, you try the placebo. But if you are thinking of, say, a heart failure drug or a hypertension drug, you cannot do a placebo. Why? Because it's unethical. Right? So you would give the best existing treatment to the control. Okay? Then what will happen is these patients will be followed up over time and to a certain endpoint time. And then that data will be analyzed. So that's how it works. That's how you would do a clinical trial. And remember, the clinical trial methodology is so rigid that you would assess these patients at many stages, looking at their clinical features, their outcomes, the side effects, and all of these. So this is how a clinical trial would flow. And you would see this reflected in the paper that you would get at the end of the study. Right? You would see this flow. So is this clear? We will be very clear about the conduct of a clinical trial before we go on to the next aspect. So any questions up to now about this? Right, so your talk, this is supposed to be an interactive session, but if doing interactive session in Sri Lanka is difficult. So sort of one-to-one for this or this. Okay. Fine. Fine. Okay, so now you have given that paper to me. Right, so there is a paper that we are going to discuss today. I know it's not directly related to emergency medicine, but we'll use it as a template and we will adapt that into your field. So you can take it up.
It's in your Viber group, Sprint.
Sprint.
Right. Photocopy is.
Sorry, I was saying it at the last minute. There should be a PDF. Get that on your device off. Okay. Yeah, some people are very good. You can of course share with your heart name. Or just search it online and type sprint trial and get the PDF of the New England Journal of Medicine. New England Journal of Medicine, type sprint trial on Google and get it down from there. You will read about it. Are we okay? Anybody who has not finished it? So are we ready? Now this is going to be a bit of an interactive session. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to critically analyze this paper. Right? Now I know reading a paper can be a daunting task for most people. There are a lot of words which are used which you have no idea what they mean. But I'm going to show you a way that you are not going to read the whole paper. You need to focus on certain aspects in the paper. That's what we're going to do. That is how you appraise the paper. So that's what we're going to do. Right. So what we do is we split the appraisal into 4 stages, 4 steps. Right. This is based on mainly on the components in the research paper. What are the general headings or main headings in the research paper? The top. Main headings in the research paper, what are they? They give you the title. Then you have the abstract. So forget about that. We are not going to read abstracts and make conclusions. We will always want to get the full paper. Because remember, the abstract is written in such a way that it makes it nice for the reader to say, and this gives you a positive result most of the time. So it's always good practice to look at a complete paper and then make your conclusion. Go to the abstract only and make your conclusion. So in a paper, what are the main headings that you get in a research paper? You have the introduction or background section. Then you have the, what are the things? Yeah, then you have the main methodology. Some people might give the objectives also, but you have the main methodology. And that will give you a lot of subheadings which will come to, right? So talk about the methodology. Then you have another main section with all the results of the study. Finally, you will have a discussion. And then they will give a conclusion at the end of the discussion. Sometimes there is separate point called a conclusion, but they might put it at the end of the discussion. So these are the 4 main components you will find in a research paper. Right? And our critical appraisal is going to look at these main areas in this paper. Okay. Right. We start off with the introduction. Right. Can you quickly scan through the introduction of this sprint trial? Just scan through it. Right. And see what it is about and tell me what it is about. Just look at the introduction section only. So the introduction or background will give you the background for the study. Why they did the study, right? Why they did the study? What is the reason for them doing this study? So they will give you the background to the study. So that's important. So I give you about 5-10 minutes. Read that and we'll discuss. It's not the abstract, you read the paper. Just quickly scan through it and get a basic idea about what it talks about. can discuss with your colleagues if you want and just come up with a possible summary of the impact. A summary of the impact. What can offer you? Yeah. Good. No. Spring. It's a because this trial is looking at intensive blood pressure control, not chest pain. That's the first step. Try to get the paper, proper paper, to read the proper paper. That's the first. Right. Display is something I don't know. Right, so in interest of time, and someone tell me what the introduction says, what is this trial all about?
Basically, the reduction of blood pressure is associated with reduction of cardiovascular but there's no particular target as such. Yes, we got no evidence, but no particular target. So what they have done is they have done this thing that 100 basis to 100 from reporting.
So basically, in the introduction, what you are looking at is this. There are two things. One, what is the research question? They will tell you what their research question was. And also, they will give you evidence to support that. And they will also prove something called the biological plausibility. What does that mean? What is biological plausibility? So, in example, in this study, we know that high blood pressure causes bad outcomes. It causes MI, it causes stroke, so many issues. So, what? There's reduction of the blood pressure causes better outcomes. And that can be biologically plausible because it reduces wall tension on the arteries and so on. But it reduces atherosclerosis, shear stress on the arteries. So, you have to look at these two aspects. What is the research question and what is the justification for that research question? And what is there biological plausibility in this study? The way you look at a research question is this. You use something called a PICO model. It's a very standard way of looking at a research question. PICO. So P stands for the patients or population that you are using. Right? So population. So in this study, what is the patient population that they are using? Yeah. In general, patients with hypertension. Right? But you might see that when we go down, there are certain other specific criteria that you use. So not all the patients with hypertension. There are other specific criteria. I is the intervention or exposure. So what is I in this spring trial? It is intensive blood pressure control. C is the comparison. In PICO, C is comparison. So what is comparison? You are looking at comparing with standard blood pressure control. And finally, outcome. Does it improve outcome? So how would you frame the research question? The spring trial is looking at whether in patients with hypertension, that is P, intensive blood pressure control versus standard blood pressure control, does it improve outcome? So that is the research question. So is everybody clear about framing the research question and identifying the research question? So from the introduction in any RCT paper, or whatever paper for that matter, that looks at research, you should be able to get the research question out of it. So in this trial, you are looking at patients with hypertension, whether intensive blood pressure versus standard blood pressure has any difference on patients with hypertension in the outcomes. PICO. So is this very clear? Any questions about this PICO model framing of research questions? So you are looking at that in the paper. Okay. So this is what it is. So we have already done this. We have read the introduction and we have done it. Okay. That's the first critical approach. You look at the research question, identify a clear research question. So a paper that does not have a clear research question, is it a good paper? No, it's not. Some papers are very wishy-washy, they don't have a clear research question. So you can say the research question is unclear. Therefore, the quality of this paper is not good. Right? Anyway. So then you have the research questions which you have done. The introduction. Now we move on to the method section and critically looking at the method section in the paper. Right. Can you, Prasad, can I have a question? Now look at the method section and read the headings in the method section. Can somebody tell us the headings in the method section? What are the headings in the method section? You will see something called study design. Then there is another heading called study population. Then you have another section called randomization and intervention. Then you have another section called study measurements, study outcomes, and statistical analysis. Right? So we have all these sections different already. So in the method section, you are looking at 6 critical questions. In your critical appraisal, you are looking at 6 very important questions. And we go through these questions one by one. The first thing you look at is representative population. We'll come to what it means. Representative population. Right. Then you look at the sample size. Then you do something called a bias assessment. Right? We do that in detail. Bias assessment. Then you look at the outcome. You come to all of these again. And finally, again it's linked to bias assessment, the last one. We'll go through this again. Okay, so in the method section, first section, it tells you what sort of study this is. So what sort of study is this sprint track? Yeah, so the first few lines tell me what sort of study this is. And remember, we are dealing only with RCTs today. There are other types of studies which we need to look at differently. So is this RCT or not? It's RCT. So the first line will tell you that it's RCT. Sprint was a randomized, controlled, open label. We'll come to all of these, but it's a randomized controlled trial. Is it a single center or multi-center? It's a multi-center. Is that good or bad? Good. So RCTs are supposed to be the best evidence that you can get, or high up in the best evidence categories. Okay. Okay. Now what we look at is, does this study have a representative population? So what sort of population characteristics did these people look at? In other words, what was their selection criteria? So for that, what do you need to find in this? In order to identify what sort of population they use, what do you need to read? You need to look at the inclusion criteria and the exclusion criteria of this RC. So can somebody find that and tell me exactly what that is? So where would you find that information? In the study population section. So read that now. Can somebody read that loud? Study population. Yeah. Somebody in that study population. Shout. That's it.
Age of at least 50 years.
Age of at least 50 years. Okay.
Systolic blood pressure of 130 to 180.
Right.
And increase cardiovascular.
Okay. Increased cardiovascular risk was defined, because you can't just say increased cardiovascular risk and greater than it will define. So what is the definition of increased cardiovascular risk?
One or more of the following clinical or subclinical cardiovascular disease other than the stroke, chronic kidney disease, excluding persistent kidney disease. Estimated global filtration rate of 20 to less than 16 years.
Okay. Right. That's a risk score that you calculate. That's called Framingham score. So that has been used. Right. Okay. So what do you think about this population that these people have used in this trial for looking at intensive blood pressure versus standard blood pressure? Do you think it's a representative population? Or are you using a very selected sort of population? What are your thoughts about it? Your talk, it's just has no meaning. This session has no meaning. Yes. Yeah, and somebody. Yeah. It's a very selected population, isn't it? And if you look at the exclusion criteria, who are they excluding? Patients with diabetes, patients with fast stroke, and they are selecting patients only with increased cardiovascular risk. They are also excluding some patients with chronic kidney disease, who have a low GFR. So, at the real end, this representative population comes into play. Can you apply the study to any hypertensive walking about in the corridor today? Can you apply the results of this study to any hypertensive walking about in the corridor today? Or you can only apply this to hypertensives who are more than 50, who have a blood pressure of more than 130 to 180, who don't have end-stage chronic kidney disease, who don't have diabetes and don't have fast stroke. So that's the representativeness of this population. So these are the very stringent, very strict, narrow inclusion criteria. So does everybody understand that point? So if you read, if you say like, let's say this says that intensive blood pressure is good, can you go and start practicing this in a clinic and say, whatever you give blood pressure, drop it down to absolute low limits and see? You can't do that. Because they're very, it's not a very representative population, it's a very narrow sort of population that people are using. Right. Okay. So now in the method section, we have understood that this is a RCT, right? We have understood that the population is not very representative. Fine. So then we have to look at something called a sample size calculation. Before we come to this, now we know that this is a RCT. And I told you that RCT has two arms. So what are the two arms of this trial? What are the two arms of this trial? You have a treatment group and a control group. What is the treatment group? Based on all the inclusion criteria you take, exclusion criteria you put out, and you take people in. Right? And you divide them into an intervention group and a control group. Clear? Right. What does the intervention group get? Intensive blood pressure control. How is that defined? Less than, or somebody was talking about it. In the instruction, they gave you that. Yeah. So what were they looking at? A blood pressure less than 120 systems. Whereas a less intensive, where the blood pressure is around. The other group is going to get a blood pressure around 140. Right? So those are your two groups, right? What are you looking at in there? You are looking at the outcomes. Right? We'll come to what outcomes they look at. Right. Now, is sample size important in a study? Why? Why is sample size important in a study? Yeah, yes, what? Yeah, I don't want a statistical answer, I just want a general answer.
It's not useful. Determine is quality of the study.
Yes, exactly. So a sample size will tell you the quality of the study. If you have a sample size of 100 and make a conclusion, and you have another study that takes a sample size of about 100,000 and makes a conclusion, what are you going to agree or what are you going to believe more? You are going to believe the larger study because you are going to have a very large population. Right? So sample size is very, very important. Right? So in the paper, they will tell you how the sample size was calculated. Right? And they will give you a number, a target number. Now remember, these are very difficult statistical things, right? But they will tell you what sort of sample is required for them to make their conclusions, right? And what you have to check is did they achieve that sample size in the study, right? Because they will tell you we need 20,000 patients to make a conclusion in the method section. Right? So they need to. So the sample size is important. You need to look at the sample size very carefully. Okay. But this is not very important. Oh, sorry. And so what have we done up to now in the method section? What have we done? We have first identified that this is a what type of study? Come on, talk. So we have a randomized study, the randomized clinical trial. Then we have looked at the representativeness of the population. And we decided that this inclusion and exclusion criteria are very narrow. And you are looking at a very specific group of people. It does not mean that's bad. It's just that it's a very narrow population you are looking at. Right? Then we went through the different arms in the study. You have to be very clear about this. What sort of people were included, excluded, then we put them into the groups, and then we said the intervention received intensive blood pressure control and the other group received standard blood pressure control. Then you must always check for the next aspect where the sample size, whether it is adequate enough to make conclusions. And they will give that information in the paper. Right. Then we come to a very important aspect of methodological assessment in a paper, which is assessment of bias. What is bias? So bias is defined as a systematic error in a study design. So when you design a study, there are so many ways that you can introduce error, where the effects that you see are not due to the drug, but are due to an error in your methodology. That's what bias is. And the higher your bias, your results are not going to be good. So we go through this again. Is everybody clear about the flow of a clinical trial? Because we are going to look at each section and we are going to identify areas that bias can be introduced. So is this extremely crystal clear? The flow of a clinical trial. So eligibility. So in this study, eligibility was assessed using inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria. They came in and they were allocated to intervention and control. The intervention is intensive blood pressure, control is standard blood pressure, and then they were followed. So this is the flow. Right. Now there are several types of bias. Right. Several types of bias. The first type is something called selection bias. There are 5 types of bias. Selection bias is the first one. What is selection bias? What is selection bias? Where you can selectively choose people to go into the treatment arm and the control. So if you like, you can put the mild sort of disease fellows onto the intervention arm and put the severe fellows onto the control arm, and show that your drug is fantastic. So you can do that. Right? So that's what selection bias means. And selection bias is assessed with two very important parameters in your trial. The first one is random sequence generation. Right? So is there random sequence generation? The first thing. So what is random sequence generation? Yeah. So there is an equal chance you can't predict it. People can go into the intervention group or the control group. You can't predict it before. So that's what it means. And it determines a random order of assigning people into the two groups. It's a complete random thing. Right. And what this does is it avoids systematic differences between the groups. Right? And also, there are a lot of other confounding factors that play a role which may modify their response to treatment, which should adjust when you have absolutely nice random split. So how do people randomize in clinical trials? How do people randomize in clinical trials? So it's this and so if you are participating in clinical trial, I say the right part of this class goes for a intervention, left goes for a control. So is that a good randomization policy? No, it's not. Or I can say every other. So there are bad ways of randomizing. The good ways of randomizing are to use things like computer-generated randomization sequences. The people use computer-generated things, and you have a random numbers going on, and then you assign based on the random numbers. So you have to make sure that your randomization, random sequence generation is good in your trial. So there are some things that have a high risk of high bias of randomization. Things like you can allocate date of birth or day of visit. Those have very high risk of randomization bias. Okay. So that's the first thing you look at. I'll give you these slides. They are just basic things. I'll just go through them. Right. So random sequence generation. So can you find in this trial how was the randomization done? How was the randomization done? So you get randomization and intervention. Does it tell you details? Does it tell you details? Just says eligible participants are assigned to systolic blood pressure standard treatment and intensive treatment. Randomization was stratified according to clinical site. That means it's a bit of a different system, but we'll come to that later. So they have not given a detailed description of randomization. That's not a wrong thing. Can you find that information if you want? So you don't see this described in the web, you're not sure whether they randomize properly or not. Where do you find that information from? The randomization, random sequence generation and things, where do you find it from? It's not in the methodology. It's not in the methodology. So all major clinical trials will have a published protocol. It is generally published separately to the paper. That is a very important bit of information, very long thing, obviously goes into several hundred pages. It is meant for people not to read. Right? So, in that they will give a very detailed description of how the randomization was done. So, if you want further information, you can always consult study protocol, which is freely available on. So, this particular study has a study protocol, they give you the description. So, we cannot make a good conclusion on random sequence generation because we don't have information given in the paper on that. Okay? Right. Then we have allocation concealment. That's the next way that you look at selection bias. What is allocation concealment? Can someone tell you what that is? What is allocation concealment? What does that mean? Allocation concealment, just English term. Nobody can find out whether the patient is in the intervention group or the control. The allocation is concealed, secret. Allocation, concealment. When a person is recruited to that, no one can predict what group they are saying, nobody can know. Right? So, how do people do allocation concealment? So all of these, in the big good clinical trials, all of these are computer generated. Everything is sealed and packed and nobody can see. But the patients don't know what they are in. The people who are looking at them also don't know what group they are in. So that's proper allocation concealment. So nobody can identify whether they are in the intervention or the control. That's proper allocation concealment. So is that important? Why do you think that is important? Is allocation concealment important? Why are we talking about a bias problem? If you don't conceal allocation, what can happen? Yeah, Professor, what can happen?
Because then people know how the outcomes are.
Yes, so
Everybody,
people know what they are getting. The people who are assessing them also know what they are getting. So you can maybe modify the results and say, this fellow is doing very well. So allocation concealment is an important thing in clinical. Okay? Right. Hi. Now, what do you think about the allocation concealment in your paper? In this paper that we have given. Again, look at the randomization. Here they will give the information on that. What do you think? Is this perfect allocation concealment or not? Why not? Right. So it says the participants and the study personnel were aware of what group they were in. But the outcome adjudicators were not. So the people who were assessing them at the end did not know. But the patients and the people who were doing the clinical trial knew very well what group they were in. So do you think this is good allocation concealment? No, it is not. So this is how you analyze it. You understand? So that's what you do in selection bias. Okay, so you look at random sequence generation and allocation concealment. And if you have good random sequence generation, you will have, what is your end result? If you have good randomization procedures, what will you have? You will have two groups with equal baseline characteristics. And are the baseline characteristics given in a paper? Always they are in the results section in the first. They will give you a table with the baseline characteristics. Can everybody turn that to that table? And just there's a table there. Table 1. Table 1. They are giving a lot of information. Can you see? Age and all the clinical characteristics, the gender, ethnic group, baseline blood pressures, serum creatinine, cholesterol, triglyceride, blood glucose, a whole lot of baseline characteristics. So what is your assessment about these baseline characteristics? Are they equal looking? Just scan and see. They obviously mark they are different and tell you in the results section about that. You come there. Looks okay, isn't it? So all of these characteristics look equally distributed among the intervention and the control. Does everybody follow? Right. Next we come to performance bias. So what is performance bias? Right. So what is performance bias? So performance bias is where you have a different treatment of the intervention group and the control group. This generally happens when what is not good. You can treat the intervention group differently and the control group differently. And this generally happens when what other bias is there. When you don't have a good allocation concept, right? So you can introduce performance bias where you have different treatment in the intervention groups. And people used to use terms like blinding first. What is blinding? Blinding is where, so they used to terms like single blind and double blind and things like that. So double blind was referring to what? Where the patients nor the assessors knew about what group the patients were in. That's that. Fine. So is there a high probability that there could be performance bias in this? There is a probability that there could be. Why? Because your allocation concealment is not there. Right? There could be a study. The people who are doing the study knew what groups the patients were in. Right? So only the outcome assessors that were blind, they did not know. But other people knew. So there are problems. Right. Then we come to detection bias. And detection bias is minimized by what? By what? Blinding the people who look at the outcome. So what happens if the people who assess the patient at the end know what group the patient is in? They will obviously make sure that they have a better results, right? So if the outcome assessors were blinded, you avoid detection bias, where they don't preferentially favor the intervention group or whatever group. So what do you think about detection bias in this trial? That's okay. There is very low risk that there is bias there. Why? Because what reason is there? Because the outcome assessors were blind. So they did not know what group the patients were in. They did not know. If that they also knew, then this trial is a total failure because there is no allocation concealment, proper allocation concealment. And the outcome assessors, if they were not blind, then the whole thing is rubbish. So that's important. Fine. Then we have something called attrition bias. These words are really difficult, but these are standard words that people use. Now, attrition bias is, now say you start a study with 15,000 participants. Do you think all of these 15,000 participants will be followed up? Do you think all the 15,000 fellows who started off with, will they be followed up to the end of the trial? Or will their data, all of their data be available? Do you think that's practically possible? No, it's practically impossible to follow up all the fellows. Some people might drop out, not turn up for assessments, and things like this. So attrition bias is looking at outcome data. So you are looking at the outcome data, seeing if you have a lot of missing data. Right? So you have to look at it very carefully and see, are there missing data? Right? So how do you look at that? Can anybody propose a way that you look at missing data? Right. So look at figure 1. Figure 1. What does that show you? Huh? Figure 1. That shows the flow of the trial. So how many patients were assessed for eligibility? 14,690. But a lot of people were ineligible, declined to participate. So that was a large amount, almost about 5,000 maybe. Why? So that also demonstrates that the representativity of the population. So it's a very narrow criteria, so you see a lot of fellows being excluded, about 5,000 people being excluded. Then about 9,161 underwent randomization. And they were assigned 4,000 to each group. Okay, large numbers, right? But how many people were included in the analysis? All were included in the analysis. Looks funny, why? Because 224 people discontinued intervention, 111 were lost to follow-up, and 152 withdrew. That sounds funny. How can all of those be people include analysis? So that is called intention to treat analysis. What that means is, if you start randomizing people and put them in two groups, whatever happens, whether they drop out or whatever, they are included in your final analysis. Their data is included, right? So intention to treat. So if they were put into two groups, or they were intended to treat, whether they finished it or not, their data is included in the analysis. So whereas you can do another form of analysis called per protocol analysis. That means you do not include these missing fellows from your final analysis. Is that good or bad? So you take only the fellows who complete the study for the analysis. Do you think it's good or bad? Do you think that taking everybody's details into account is good, or whether you people who finish the trial only? Finish the trial only. Why? Why? Exactly. So the problem is, why have these people dropped out? They might have had some adverse events and they might have dropped out of the study. Right? They might have not tolerated the medication. So if you don't include their details in the final assessment, your assessment may be biased. You are looking at only the people who are included in the final stage. So there may be people who have dropped out due to various reasons. Right? So that needs to be taken into account. So attrition bias looks at this aspect of having all the outcome data being available, right? And also, if you have a lot of missing data, that is a problem. We don't know what happened to them, right? We don't know what happened to them, right? That's a problem. So if you have a study reporting and say that 15,000 fellows started, we have only data for 5,000 people, the rest of 7,000, you don't know what happened to them. That is a major attrition bias. You don't know what happened to them. They might have died because of the drug. All is well. So you need to very carefully go through this and find out what happened to all the participants. And this initial tables will tell you. So what do you think about the people who dropped out? Are they a large number in comparison with the total amount? So it's 200, 100. So it's not a large amount of people who dropped out, but their data was included in the final analysis. So what is that called again? Just remind me what that is called. It's called intention to treat analysis. And the methodology section will tell you whether that was the case or not. Okay. Fine. The final type of bias is reporting bias. Right. Now we are normal human beings. Trialists are also normal human beings. They are sometimes funded by pharmaceutical companies. So it's a very common scenario that happens. People only report what sort of outcomes do you think they commonly report? Positive outcomes. And there has been a lot of studies on medical literature that shows us that most of the trials that had negative outcomes were never published. Right? And also, if you take even in a single study, they might not have reported on the negative outcomes. They might have only reported on the positive outcomes. So what is that called? Selective reporting. And that leads to reporting bias. So how do you see whether this trial has selective reporting or not? Again, you go back to the protocol. Now, before you do the study, you plan, you are looking at these outcomes. These are specific outcomes you are looking at, right? So at the end of the thing, if they have not mentioned one outcome in their paper, you know that there is something alternative. So how do you look at reporting bias? You look at the protocol. You look at the protocol and then see, this they have mentioned the outcome like this, I can't find it in the paper. They have not reported on. That's selective reporting. The protocol is useful for that also. You have to say what outcomes they were looking at. Fine. Okay. So what about our trial? Now can somebody summarize our bias assessment of this trial? So first we start with randomization, right, or selection bias. So what about randomization? Random sequence allocation. The paper does not give us adequate information about that. So what would we like to do? We would like to look at the protocol and see. What about allocation concealment? So allocation concealment is partially done. Only the outcome assessors were blinded. Right. Then, what is the next type of bias? Performance bias. Where you sometimes selectively treat the intervention group better. So there is a risk of that happening in this trial. Why? Because the patients and the assessors knew what they were getting. Then what is the next type of bias we talked about? Detection bias. So is there detection bias in this? Probably not. Why? Because the outcome assessors are blinded. Then what is the next type of bias? Attrition bias. So that's minimum in this study. Why? Because they use intention to treat analysis. Looked at all the people, looked at all their outcomes, and the dropout rates are very small. There is not a lot of missing data. Right. Okay. Then the final type is selective reporting or reporting bias. We don't know, so we need to go back to the protocol and see what they were initially trying to look at, whether they have reported on all those outcomes. Okay. Fine. Okay, so up to now, what do we think about this paper? So what are the components that we have critically appraised now? We have first decided the PICO question. So what is the PICO question of this? The research question of this? That intensive blood pressure control versus standard blood pressure control, a population of hypertensive patients has a difference in outcome. That's the research question. And is there biological plausibility for that? Is there biological, maybe biological plausibility. Then we looked at the method section and identified the methodology of the study. So what is the methodology of the study? It is a randomized clinical trial, right? Controlled trial. So it's a good methodology. Right. Then what did we say? We looked at the sample size and how the groups were allocated, and we would make a decision on that, whether the sample sizes were adequate or not. Then we looked at a whole lot of aspects of bias, and we assessed the bias. Alright. Fine. Then, before we go to the next section, we have to be very clear about the outcomes of the study, endpoints of the study. So, can somebody find that in this paper for me? Endpoints, outcomes. So, these are the outcomes we are looking at in this paper. That's very important. Outcomes, study outcomes. What are the outcomes? Or endpoints. So you find things like primary outcome, words like primary outcomes, then secondary outcomes. So I'll read this. The primary hypothesis was that treatment is study outcome section. Definitions of the study outcomes are outlined in the appendix. So you can look at the appendix for the detailed outcomes. But generally, what was the primary outcome? was that treatment with a systolic pressure target less than 120 compared to the target of less than 140 would result in a lower rate of composite myocardial infarction, acute coronary syndrome, stroke, acute decompensated heart failure, or death from cardiovascular causes. So we are looking at a combined endpoint, combined outcome. So that is the endpoint of the study. The moment somebody reaches that endpoint, that's it. That's what they are looking for. Secondary outcomes included the individual components of the primary outcome. So you look at stroke separately, MI separately, that's separate. They are looking at renal outcomes also. In this next paragraph, they are looking at renal outcomes also, including renal problems, albuminuria, and things like that. So those are their outcomes of the study. Right. So I have gone through two steps, most difficult steps of clinical appraisal, looking at the introduction and looking at the method section. In the method section, we did a detailed bias assessment, looked at the outcomes, looked at the sample sizes, and looked at the general methodology and flow of the study. Okay. Now we come to the results section, which is the most important. Before we come to the hardcore statistics, turn to the results section in your paper. Can you tell me what the headings or subheadings of these are? Results section. The first subheading is on study participants. Study participants. And you have to read this, you just look at the table. So they give you all the important information about the study participants in table 1. So in the results section, you start looking at that. We did this before also. What are you looking again? You are trying to reconfirm whether there are any differences in the two groups. So I told you, if randomization protocols are adequately in place, there is no reason why these two groups should be different. There can be in certain extreme cases, but generally they should be almost equal. Okay. Especially look at things like cardiovascular disease. They are almost similar, isn't it? The rates of cardiovascular disease in the two groups, the cardiovascular risks are all similar. So for example, now we are looking at cardiovascular outcomes. We are looking at death due to cardiovascular disease, looking at stroke and MI and things at the endpoint. If fellows had a low cardiovascular risk to start off with in the intervention group, then there is a major problem. Well, you cannot compare. So in the results section, the first thing you look at is whether the two groups are equal at baseline. Okay? Just take a minute to look at that. Another thing you might be interested in is baseline blood pressure before giving the drug. So do you think those are equivalent in the two groups? They are, isn't it? So 139 in both groups. Do you think the ages are important? All of this information. Say intervention group was fellows in the younger age, there you have problems. Right? So the results section, the baseline groups look equivalent. That's a good thing. Right. Now there is another critically important table that you look at next. And this is, we are looking at the treatment effect. Treatment effect. Now, just look at this. Right. I'll just go on this one. Treatment effect. Now, what are we doing in this trial? Just remind me again. We are giving one group intensive blood pressure control, other group standard blood pressure, and we are looking at the outcomes of what? Cardiovascular outcomes, like how many fellows had stroke, how many fellows had acute coronary syndrome, how many people died, and things like that. And so we are looking at that. So how do you express that information? Okay. We go through this a little later. Look at this table. I see a table here. What is table? Can you find this table in the result section? So this will give you outcomes. All the outcomes they looked at. They will also give you intensive treatment group, standard treatment group. They will also give you something called a confidence interval, which I tell you what it is, and a p-value. We'll go through all of this. This is a bit difficult, but yeah. So, what are the outcomes? So, first is the primary outcome. We already know what that is. It's a composite outcome looking at a lot of things. Composite endpoint of stroke and MI and death and everything, right? Secondary outcomes are what? They are separated. So, what are secondary outcomes? Only myocardial infarction, only acute coronary syndrome, only stroke, heart failure, death from cardiovascular cause, death from any cause, right? Forget about the last one, it's not very important. Then there are other outcomes, renal outcomes, like we discussed that they were looking at renal outcomes also. So they were looking at renal failure, dialysis, requirement of transplantation, fellows who had albuminuria. So a lot of outcomes, so all outcomes are listed in this. And they are looking at the effect of the treatment on these outcomes. And here, what is this N given there? 4,678 is what? Those are numbers in the intervention group. Here is the standard. So intervention group at intensive blood pressure control. Standard group at less intensive blood pressure. Okay. This number is 243. What is that number? What does that mean? 243. What does that number mean? 243 out of this 4,678 had the primary outcome, which is a composite outcome of all of those things. So even if they had 3 of those, they would be included. Right. That is compared to 319 in the control group. Just by looking at it, what are you seeing now? So look at any other statistics in this. 243 to 393. Numbers only. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? So it looks like there are less numbers of people with the primary outcome. Is that a good outcome or bad outcome? It's a bad outcome. There are less numbers in the treatment than the control. Okay, looks okay. But can you compare things like that? You can't. You need to express it as a statistical value or a ratio. So how would you express it as a ratio? Very simply, you would give it this number divided by 4,670 compared to 319 divided by 4,680. Okay, which are all the participants in that group. Does everybody understand that? And that is put as a percentage of 5.2 and 6.2. That is called the event rate. So the first term that you have to write down is the event rate. So what is the event rate? What is the definition of an event rate? How many people had, it's a percentage or a ratio. How many people of the total population had that outcome? That's called the event rate. I'm going slow with it because the statistics, most people find it difficult to understand. Right. Event rate. So there are two types of event rates: experimental event rate and controlled event rate. So can somebody tell me the experimental event rate in this? 5.2. Control event rate is 6.8. And remember that in this particular study, they are quoting these based on a particular time. So it's always time. And here, you can see that it's percentage per year. Not all studies would be that. This study is you will get percentage per year. So what is the experimental event rate of the primary outcome? It's given within brackets. That's a total one. Per year is 101.63. Right? So duration of follow-up. This is a total one, and this is per year. Right. Is that clear? Right. So this study went on for, if I can remember, about 2.5 years. If you read the paper, you will identify the study duration. And what happened is 5.2% as the primary outcome in the experimental group, and that is called the experimental event rate, versus a control event rate of 6.8%. Right. Again, looking at numbers, what do you think about those two numbers? The experimental event rate compared to the control event rate, what do you think about the two numbers? So intensive blood pressure control, what do you think? Had less events, less percentage events. Good? Looks okay. But still you cannot make a conclusion. What we need to do is, we need to see a ratio between these. So you are looking at a ratio between the experimental event rate and the control event. And that is called, ladies and gentlemen, the relative risk. Or some people call it the risk ratio. Risk ratio. Risk ratio. So how would you define a relative risk or a risk ratio? What is the definition or equation that gives you the risk ratio or relative risk? It's the experimental event rate divided by the control event rate. Right. So what do you think? Is it good if it's in this case less than 1 or more than 1? So in this, what is it? Is it more than 1 or less than 1? What is the rate ratio or the risk ratio or the relative risk? It's less than 1. Good or bad? Good or bad? Good. So less than 1 is good, more than 1 is bad, depending on what outcome you are looking at. If you are looking at a good outcome, then it's bad. It's bad. Here you are looking at a negative outcome, so it's good. And you might see another term given here called hazard ratio. Now, for your purposes, hazard ratio is very similar to the relative risk. It's not the same, but it's generally similar. For you are not going to do clinical trials, you are not going to do statistics of clinical trials. So you don't have to worry about these differences. But generally the same, but there are few differences. The hazard ratio is very specific on time to event. Right? It's very linked to the time to event. Whereas the relative risk does not have time restriction. Just it's at overall. Hazard ratio is 2.5 years. This particular time, this is the hazard. It's a point estimate. Right? So that you want to look further information. But for your purposes, it's almost the same. So it's the same. And hazard, the word hazard means you are looking at negative outcomes. That's a very fast. Okay. So relative risk we choose. And these are slightly different. For your purposes, they are almost the same. So what do you see? So hazard ratio 0.75. Good. Can we still make a conclusion and say that intensive pressure control has a good primary outcome? Can we still make that conclusion, or do we need some additional information? You need some additional information. What is that additional information? Two things you need to do. What are these two things? You need to look at something called the confidence interval. Now, what is the confidence interval? What is this confidence interval? It gives you the precision of the effect. So, effect in this case is what? Represented by the hazard ratio. So, what is the effect in this? 0.75. But you have to look at the precision of it. Now, what is a confidence interval? You might have been taught long years ago in medical school about confidence interval, which you might not have understood at the time. You may not understand after this session also, but I'll try to make it simple. What is a confidence interval? Anybody can give me any non-statistical explanations for a confidence interval? This is the case. How many patients with hypertension are there in the world? Maybe millions. How many people have we seen here? We have selected people now. We have only seen how many patients? 9,000 patients. From 50 million or billions, large amount. And if you take the universe and you believe in extraterrestrial life, there will be other people with hypertension in the universe. So, can you physically take everybody in the world and do a study? You can't. So, what you are going to be doing is, you are going to do small studies, like all over the place. This is the sprint trial. Right. Okay? We do this absolute same. So that the sprint trial was done in America. We do the absolute same thing in Sri Lanka. Will you get 0.75? Will you get 0.7? Absolutely the same. No difference at all. Will you get 0.75? No, because there is a slight variation in the people. You might get, so sprint as 0.75, you might get 0.89 in Sri Lanka. You do it in Australia, you might get 0.65. If you do it somewhere else, you might get sometimes other way around, 1.8, higher. So confidence interval will tell you what information? It will tell you, this is our sample, and in the true population, this value may range from, what is the value given there? 0.64 to 0.8. It may vary. In a sprint trial, you look at 0.75, but the true population, which we cannot assess, may have a value ranging from 0.64 to 0.8. Is that clear? Right? So that's what it means. Follow-up question. Is a narrow confidence interval good or a broad confidence interval good? So the narrower the confidence interval, the more precise your effect is. So what do you think about the primary outcome here? It's a very narrow confidence interval. And this is reflected in the p-value. The p-value. That's the next thing you look at. What is the p-value? Is that something again that you don't understand? You say p-value for everything and you don't understand what it means. Right. What is a p-value?
The probability to achieve a rate is outside the population value.
Okay. So again, that's what statisticians say. We don't understand what that means. Right. So what is the p-value? Now you did the sprint trial. You got a beautiful hazard ratio of 0.75, saying that your intensive blood pressure control is fantastic. Good. Okay? But there's something called chance, isn't it? Probability. That there is absolutely no difference here. But this is chance. So see, chance and luck you are getting 0.75. But there is no difference. The p-value tells you that the probability of that probability, which is a very difficult way of putting it, element of chance in your results. So p-value of less than 0.001 means that there is a less than 1 in 10,000, 10,000, then this is a chance thing. This is a lucky thing. That's what it is, right? Okay? Less than 0.001 means there is a less than 1 in 10,000. Very small thing. Then this could be a lucky observation. Okay? Right. So the lesser the p-value, you are more confident that it is good. If you have a high p-value, this could be lucky observation. Right? Lucky observation. There is no real difference, it's a luck. Right? You just do it now. Make a luck it up. Okay, that's what it means. So, in the result section, I've gone through all this process to tell you, this table you have to spend a lot of time on looking at all of these things. So what you first look at all the outcomes which are listed, which you already identified. Then what you do, number 2, you look at the numbers, looking at the numbers between the two groups. Then you look at the event rate. So the two types of event rates you look for, the experimental event rate and the control event rate. Then the next thing you look at is the relative risk or risk ratio or hazard ratio, which gives you a comparison between the experimental event rate divided by the control event rate. But even then we are not happy. What do we need to do? We need to look at the confidence interval, to look at the precision of the event. Right? So whether this is narrow, if this is very, very broad, that tells you this data is not very accurate. Why? Because the true thing can vary very significantly. Then finally you look at the p-value to see what is the element that this may be a luck observation. So the higher the p-value, you are worried that this may be due to luck. This observation may be due to luck or chance, pure chance. Right. Can somebody similarly comment about myocardial infarction? Myocardial infarction. Using the principles I have taught you, what do you think about myocardial infarction? 97 to 160. Clear? Is everybody following that? 97 to 160. What is the experimental event rate? Experimental event rate, you talk now, 2.1. Control event rate, 2.5. On paper that looks better. So the experimental event rate is less in the intensive treatment. What do you think about the hazard ratio for myocardial infarction? 0.83. Good or bad? It's less than 1. Good. Look at the confidence interval now. What do you think about that? It's a broad confidence interval, number 1. Number 2, there's another very important observation there. What is the upper end of the confidence interval? It's 1.09. It's actually, now you are crossing 1. The moment it crosses 1, is this a precise effect? So can you say very confidently that intensive blood pressure control has beneficial outcomes on myocardial infarction? You can't, because the precision is not good. Why? If you do this trial in Australia, you might get a 1.09. So that's a too broad confidence. What about the p-value? 0.19. So generally our cutoff is 0.05. So this has a high probability of anyway being a chance. So is myocardial infarction demonstrated to be better in intensive blood pressure control? Okay, what about acute coronary syndrome? That again, acute coronary syndrome, the hazard ratio is 1. Right. Neither here nor there. What about heart failure? Look at heart failure. .62.
White hazard ratio, but upper limit is
upper limit is within 1 and the p-value is less than 0.00. Right. So now, what are the outcomes which are confidently improved in the intensive phase, intensive group? The primary outcome, which looks at the composite of all these endpoints. Right. Does it have a good effect on myocardial infarction? No, it does not. Acute coronary syndrome? No. Stroke? No. Heart failure? Yes. Death from cardiovascular cause? Death from any cause? Yes. And the last one just forget. Right. Now I want you to look at renal outcomes. What do you think about those? Most of them don't seem to be significant. There is one here. Can somebody interpret this one? So the outcome is more than 30% reduction in estimated GFR. So look at that carefully and tell me what that means. More than 30% reduction in estimated GFR. That means that you are looking at the outcome, it's a poor outcome. How many fellows have declining renal function? What do you think about that? Hazard ratio is 3.49. Okay? So what does that mean? Confidence interval is wide, but statistically significant. Effect of probability is minimum. Chance is minimum. So what do you think about that? So patients who had intensive blood pressure control actually had a problem. What is the problem that they had? They have had reduction in GFR. Right? And can you just compare that with the other hazard ratios and see? All the other hazard ratios are 0.75, 0.83, but this is what? This is 3. So what does that tell you? There is almost 4-fold increase in renal dysfunction in the intestine. Okay? Then there is only 40 yantam protection for the other 0.75. That's about 3/4. This is massive increase for 4 times. Right. Okay. Fine. So does everybody get that? You do a similar thing for this. The trial will also give you a table looking at all the safety outcomes. Try to find that table. Safety outcomes. Because in a trial, apart from the efficacy, you are looking at safety also. Right. Now I leave this for you to do. Same principle. Same principle. There are no safety outcomes. Serious adverse effects, hypotension, syncope, bradycardia, electrolyte abnormality, injurious fall, acute kidney injury, hypotension. Right, so these are actually, just look at only the top part. Don't look at all of this, look at the top part. So there are some subgroup outcomes also given. And also look at the laboratory values as well. Just ignore this middle part. Look at the upper part only. What do you think? What are the significant adverse effects that you are seeing? Based on all those criteria, hazard ratio, p-value, confidence interval, everything. Let's do a quick analysis of this. So, acute kidney injury, it is almost 2 times higher, isn't it? 2.66. Hypotension, yes. Syncope, I will say right on the fence. What electrolyte abnormality was common? What electrolyte abnormality? The laboratory values, they will give you the electrolytes breakdown. Yes? Yes, I can hear you. Sodium. Right, sodium. Hyponatremia. Good. So now, how, do you understand this game a little bit? Right, so that's my objective today. You can't be experts at this in one session, but at least now you know your way around it, right? Okay. Finally, in the result section, they might give you something, sorry. In the result section, they might give you something like this. The component are this one. The subgroup analysis. What have they done here? What have they done here? They have cut the population into chunks and looked at all these things in groups. Right? So, age, you have seen age, sex, race. So, sometimes they will give us subgroup outcomes. Different for subgroups. Don't look at these too much because they give you a lot of biased information. Subgroup analysis sometimes gives you misleading information. They can split the groups so as they might get a good effect in one. So this is not looking at the total population, just splitting the groups. They look at age, 75 less than 75 here. So don't trust a lot on subgroup analysis. Right. Last one. What is this? What is this particular graph called? This they will give you in the paper. This particular graph is called what? You know the name of it? No idea. It's called a what? It's called a Kaplan-Meier survival analysis. It's called a Kaplan-Meier survival analysis. Even though the Kaplan-Meier term and this concept is a difficult concept, it's a very easy thing to understand. People will write books on Kaplan-Meier, but it is easy. Right. So this is what it means. Here, start of the study. So Kaplan-Meier survival analysis looks at mainly mortality outcomes, deaths, survival, deaths. So studies start 100%. Nobody is dead. Then you can see people dying and the survival rates going down with follow-up. Okay? And you can see, so this is the treatment, this is the control. So what do you see from this Kaplan-Meier? That the people who are treated had less deaths over time. Right? Less deaths over time. Is that clear? Very simple. And you can see the curves separating or diverging. So they start together and they diverge. You can also draw Kaplan-Meier like this. What have they done there? It's the other way around, isn't it? What are they looking on the y-axis? See this? Don't look at this together. You can get it. Slides. The y-axis they are using. They are not looking at survival, they are plotted death. So starting is 0. It's simple mathematics. Starting is 0 and with time it's increase. So it's called a reverse Kaplan. And again you see the curves separating. Right? Can you see a difference between the curve on the top and that on the below? On my right hand side, your right hand side, the graph on the top and the graph A and B is a difference. You see. Look at the time. So the important information you get from a Kaplan is the time. So the y-axis has a time. Here, when do the curves start separating? Somewhere there, at 3 years. Okay? In this, the curves start separating within how many years? Here it just, here it's diverging from the start. So what intervention do you think is better? The one that diverges at the start or goes for 3 years and then diverges? Earlier the effect, the better, obviously. So Kaplan-Meier tells you, the paper will give you hazard ratio and mosaic, primary outcome is fantastic, right? But it may require 5 years of treatment to get that primary outcome, right? That's when the Kaplan-Meier begins to diverge. So can we look at the Kaplan-Meier in our study and see what type of time it takes for the effects to come? 1 year? 1 year does the effect come? Yes. The curves are almost sitting on top of each other. There is no divergence. Where do they start to diverge? Maybe around 2 years, better around 3 years, and after 4 years, what happens? It plateaus. So we have a good primary outcome and certain good outcomes, but they don't start to occur within 1 year. They take time to come. So you need to treat them for about 2 years to get that effect. Does everyone understand that concept? So the Kaplan-Meier will tell you time to outcome. Right. Okay. So now we have done a very difficult last few minutes. We have done a very large lot of processing now. So we have looked at the effects, hazard ratios, how to interpret confidence intervals, how to look at p-values, how to look at a Kaplan-Meier. Right? There is one more thing that is extremely important. And we'll come. It's a very simple concept. I will come back to this graph. This table. Sorry. Now, what is the hazard ratio of the primary outcome? What is the hazard ratio of the primary outcome? Huh? 1.75. So it's a good one. Look at the absolute numbers. So we say intensive blood pressure treatment, very good. Reduces the primary outcome of a lot of composites, a lot of components, but it reduces the primary outcome. But do you see anything funny? Numbers were 242 or 5.2% to 6.8. That a large thing. So this brings us to the final concept of critical analysis of the result section called number needed to treat, or NNT. The number needed to treat is calculated by using something called the absolute risk reduction. So write that word down, that's a standard term. Absolute risk reduction, ARR. So what is that? That's simply the difference between the event rates in the two groups. The difference. What do we mean? Difference. So that is what, how do you calculate that in this? Simple mathematics. 6.8 minus 5.2, 1.6. 1 over absolute risk reduction is the number needed to treat. It's a Bediem AR. It's a number needed to treat. Bediem AR. 1 over absolute risk reduction. So what is the number that you get? Remember, these are in percentages, so you have to multiply it by 100. So what is the number needed to treat? Simple mathematics. Medicine dumbs you so much that you can't make a simple calculation. That's a common thing that you can't make a simple calculation. So what is that? 0.6. 62 or 63 to read the close. What does that mean? you need to treat 63 people with intensive blood pressure to get one good outcome. Okay? Right. Now, you do this for the other one, 30% reduction in GFR. That is number needed to harm or cause renal dysfunction. So can you tell me what that is? So 3.8 minus 1.1, that is 2.6, 2.7. Right. Okay, so what does this mean? Anybody have any ideas about this? So every 37 fellows into intensive treatment, one fellow is going to get renal dysfunction. Compare, you need 62 people to get one primary outcome. So what does that tell you? Half of the fellows will end up getting API before they get the primary outcome. Okay. So that's how you strip papers to shreds. So that's the way you do it. Okay. Fine. So all the way back. I've given all these definitions and things in these slides. You can refer. I've given some other statistics also you might need later on. We'll come to those slowly. This is just the first thing. Right. So can everybody do this analysis in the results section for me? So in the results section, the first thing you look at is the baseline characteristics. Is that clear? Crystal clear? What are you looking for? Differences, right? Then you are looking at effect. You look at the outcome. So does everybody know what experimental event rate is now? Control event rate, relative risk or risk reduction, hazard ratio. Right. Then the next two terms just forget about absolute risk reduction and number needed to treat. So those are the most important ones that you need to know. Right? Fine. So can somebody now summarize this, our analysis of the SPRINT trial? We'll go to the last part. So what was the research question? Intensive blood pressure control versus standard blood pressure control. Does it improve outcomes? Biologically plausible. We found that it was a randomized clinical trial. So it was a good study design, where they randomized people to less than 120 or 140 intervention control. Okay, sample size is probably adequate. I will go through that with you. Then we went through the bias assessment and decided there was no what? Allocation concealment. So that might introduce problems. We did not know very much about the random sequence generation also. Right? But we decided that the outcome assessors were blinded. There was intention to treat analysis where all the fellows were counted for. That's good. Those are positive. We don't know about reporting bias because we didn't look at the protocol. We would like to. In the results section, we saw that the baseline characteristics of the two groups are equivalent. So it's a good comparison. Then we looked at, there were several outcomes that were improved. Right? And we calculated the number needed. We will do the number needed for all of those if you like. But we also saw that there were problems like worsening GFR in a ratio which is far more than the protective effect. We also showed that with the number needed to harm, where we need 37 fellows to get renal dysfunction. Then we also looked at hypotension, hyponatremia, acute kidney injury were significantly higher in the people with intensive blood pressure. Okay? So that brings us to the last part of this. the discussion section and our conclusions. And we also said that it takes about 2 years for you to get the effect, right? Looking at the Kaplan wave. And I also showed you another important thing. What is that? Yeah, okay, I got that. Right. Okay. Then this is the final thing that we do. Stage 4 is where we look at are these findings applicable to me? Can I go back to my clinic or ward and apply this results of this study? So there are several questions that you ask, and now you'll be able to answer this. Were the people included in the trial similar to the population?
Most of them are whites and
Yes, that's another additional observation. Population, if you look at the people who are white and Hispanic, and there are very few Asians in this, isn't it? Again, look at the baseline characteristics. How many Asian people are there? How many Asian people are there? How many? So there are no Asian here, there are about 98 other. Out of 4,000, there are 98 people. So Asians might be different. And what about the criteria for inclusion? Can you just across the board apply these findings to all the patients? Right. What was the comparator and was it suitable? Yes, probably, because you are looking at standard condition. Was the study and follow-up of an appropriate duration for the disease state and intervention? Now, this is an example, not in this study, but I recently discussed a study where they looked at lipid-lowering drugs and looking at dementia. And they said there is no dementia with very low LDL levels. You expect neuronal dysfunction when your cholesterol is very low. But they only done the study for 2 years. So can you make that conclusion? No, your dementia it takes about 10 years. So that sort of thing. What's the duration of follow-up? Does the setting of the trial differ from your local setting? Could the same treatment be provided in your local setting? Do benefits of this treatment outweigh the costs and the risks? That's a critical question. So what do you think? What do you think? Do the benefits of this treatment outweigh the risks and costs? We have one major concern about this. What is the major concern? There is a large risk of developing renal dysfunction, acute kidney injury, hypotension. So that is our concern. Outweigh the benefits that they are getting. That's the decision that you have to make. And I will quote that other study that I was talking about. People looked at drugs to lower LDL to absolutely low limits. It's fantastic. It prevents cardiovascular mortality and everything. Okay? But in the US, they had calculated the cost. Personal studies, 1 year cost is $1,000 US. New treatment, there is a 14,628% increase in the cost per person. 14,826% increase in the cost. So that's what it means by do the benefit of treatment outweigh the risks and costs. Finally, should policy or practice change as a result of the evidence contained within this trial? What do you think? So do we say policy decision 120, let's drop the blood pressure less than 120 for prevention of cardiovascular mortality and all. Would you put it into policy or would you like to see more studies on this? So if you are making guidelines, would you say, all right, in my guideline I will say right from here after my blood pressure cutoff is going to be 128. Will you do that? Or would you like to see more evidence? Would like to see more evidence. So should the policy change? Probably not. Would like to. It's an interesting finding. It's an interesting finding. but you have reservations, right? Because of the concerns that we pointed out. And you look at future studies on this topic to this. And if at all, when you are applying it, can you apply it across the board to all hypertensive patients? So what sort of hypertensive patients should you be applying this study to? Remember the inclusion criteria? More than 50 patients who do not have diabetes, who do not have stroke, who have high cardiovascular risk. That is a group of patients that may benefit from this. Still, there is problem of the risk. Okay. Right. So we have discussed these two topics today. I have told you an introduction to evidence-based medicine and done a session on critical appraisal of a clinical trial. So now, ask any questions that you have. Now, basically, you have to read this paper again from the top when you go home. See, what I pointed out is the most important critical aspects that you have to look at. But obviously, you have to read this in. So there is something that you might not understand. Just forget about it if they don't stick into this important points. It's a very daunting task to do this. Anyway, Sri Lanka, we don't have this training to look at research. So it's a major problem. So when you go to international conferences, you find medical students doing much better than our postgraduates in this aspect. Not only technical plus. But you see, research and analyzing these results are much better. So we need to pick up our game. That's why we're doing sessions. Any questions? When ask any questions, please ask questions. But that is another thing. Sri Lankan students never ask any questions. Whereas, if you go to a training program, I was just at a training program of a conference in Australia. Every 1 minute, somebody raises their hand and asks a question, interrupting the thing. We feel it's good, but that's the level of inquisitiveness. Yes, some other cases are stupid question, but at least they ask questions. That shows they are keen. Yeah. Ask any question that you have. Don't go to family. Not a good person. Yeah, so there is something called a odds ratio also. That is not commonly used in clinical trial. That's why we spend a lot of time on it. That basically is now. In the relative risk, what did you do? You had the experimental event rate divided by the total population that was in that group. That is, whatever 200 betting or 4,000. Whatever. In odds ratio, you do a calculation where you take the people who had the outcome divided by the people who did not have the outcome and compare. So it's a little, it's not a total population in the denominator. It's the people who did not have the outcome. Had the outcome, did not have the outcome. Relative risk is had the outcome, total population. But it's not commonly used in trials. It's used more in case control studies and different studies. Any other questions? So I will a little bit more. I don't want you to become experts in this after this one session, but I will a little bit to understand what this means. That's what we want. Because I know it's impossible to do, because this is just gone from minus 10% to somewhere around 5% maybe. So that is what we want. Minus 10% to 5%. That is the target of this session, right? What you do now is, now I have given you an example which may not be very relevant to your practice. So what you do now is, you form a journal club. This is the way to learn. You form a journal club. You select a paper. I'll be happy to come for your details if you help me. And somebody present a randomized control trial in your area of expertise. And go through the paper based on these concepts. And that's how we learn. So then we have feedback and we learn. And so you will do that most likely. So journal club, take a paper, RCT, whatever based on your practice, what is relevant to you. I don't know whether there are a few. You can take something like a Mukakkari, something, then you take that and you typically analyze based on the concepts. And then we learn from it. It's a continuous learning. That's what I mentioned. You have to try this. So once you do about, I think you need about 4 or 5 journal clubs to get the hang of this. Once you do that, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to look at another type of critical analysis. So that obviously I can't do tomorrow. You need to go through this process first. It takes about 1 or 2 months. So you have about 5 journal clubs in the next 2 to 3 months, right? And I'll also come and we'll try to put this into practice. The next thing that we will do is there are certain papers called systematic reviews and meta-analysis. What these do are they put a lot of RCTs and things together and give you a final result. So there are 20 or 30 things like sprint trial, they put all of them together and get you the final study. Imagine as you have done a clinical trial in about 100,000 participants. But there are ways of again critically analyzing those as well, methodology. So we will do a session on that. And finally, we will do a session on maybe next year on evidence-based practice, where you come across a patient in a ward, ask a clinical question, you search for the information online. I will show you how to search for information, and then how you put it all together and apply that to your patient. So that's the flow of this general course of sessions. But today we want to go from -10 to 5. Okay. All right. No more questions?
Good morning. I'm Tanuja. Today I'm going to discuss about one of cases which I met in the ETU at Karapitiya. This is a patient presenting with the chest pain to the ETU. This is not a diagnostic dilemma, just a report case, but I just want to highlight some issues we have met when we managing the patient. So, going into the history, this is a patient, Mr. A, 50-year-old man, presented a known patient with diabetes mellitus and dyslipidemia, presented to the ED at midnight around 1:55 a.m. So his main complaint was sudden onset cardiac pain. It was make him awake from the sleep, and it was central, retrosternal, and non-radiating type, diffuse, tightening, like chest pain. Actually, it was undescribable pain. Moderate to severe in nature, lasted for about 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes, and he didn't notice any aggravating or relieving factors. And there was associated swelling and nausea, but no vomiting. And there was some acidic taste in back of his throat. Other than that, there was no orthopnea or paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea or any other symptomatic systemic problems. So considering the past medical history, as I mentioned, he was a diagnosed patient with diabetes, and there was involvement retinopathy, and he was on laser therapy, and there was peripheral vascular disease for last 6 years, and there was poor compliance for the drug, and the diet control also very poor, but there was no previous history of hypertension, any cardiovascular, cerebrovascular accidents, or ischemic heart disease. Other than that, he was occasional alcoholic and non-smoker. So after taking the history, our main concern was whether it is a cardiac problem or non-cardiac. So in non-cardiac patient, mainly the chest pain is very sharp, and it can be usually localized by a finger and lasting usually either less than 5 minutes or lasting longer. Here, this patient is having central chest pain, which is lasting more than 20 minutes and associated with the systemic autonomic symptoms. So, our main worry is whether this is cardiac rather than the non-cardiac pain. On the examination, patient was alert, but he was in pain, patent airway, and the pulse, he was not pale, afebrile, and not dyspneic, and pulse rate around 53, and it was regular, moderate in volume. There was no radio delay. Capillary refilling time was less than 2 seconds, and there were his dorsalis pedis and the posterior tibial pulsation were not palpable, probably due to peripheral vascular disease, and JVP was not elevated, and blood pressure was marginally 92 by 54 on admission. Heart sounds were normal, and there was no murmurs. So, and on respiratory system, there were few basal cavitation at the admission, and saturation was maintaining around 97 on air. Other system, there were no major abnormalities. So after going through the history and the examination, our main differential diagnosis were whether it is acute coronary syndrome. If the patient presenting to the ED department with the chest pain, sudden onset chest pain, there are other major fatalities we have to consider. So we considered aortic dissection, pulmonary embolism, and the peptic ulcer disease, perforated peptic ulcer disease as our DDs. And there are some possibilities of myopericarditis and pneumothorax, esophageal rupture, mediastinitis, but with the history and examination, those were unlikely in this patient. So this is the ECG of that patient. So what can you notice in this ECG? There are ST elevations in inferior leads and the lateral lead V5 to V6. So if there is ST elevation, it always not ischemic. So we consider some other differentials for whether it is non-ischemic ST elevation. The main possibilities are the coronary vasospasm. Usually it is very short lasting and relieved with the GTN. And the pericarditis, usually patient is having history of viral infection and pleuritic type chest pain. And ECG will shows PR depression in most precordial lead, and in AVR there should be a PR elevation, and center shape widespread ST elevation should be there, but that was not noticed in this patient. Benign early repolarization, the findings are quite similar to the pericarditis, but they have large T waves, and there is a hook-shaped J point elevation in the benign repolarization. In both conditions, the ST elevations are not compatible with the vascular territories. In left bundle branch block and the ventricular pace rhythm, there should be, those two are also quite similar. It has a wide QRS complex and appropriate discordance, but there was no wide QRS complex in this patient. And ventricular aneurysm, usually these ventricular aneurysm patients have ST elevation in anterior leads basically, and usually with the already developed Q waves. But if we can compare with the previous ECG, there should be a same changes and no dynamic changes if you repeat the ECG. And Brugada syndrome is a sodium channelopathy. It has a very characteristic ST elevation in V1 to V3 with the core-shaped or channel-shaped ST elevation more than 3 millimeter. And it also out of our consideration. And the raised intracranial pressure can cause giant T wave inversion and ST elevation. But in this patient, the history is not tally with the scenario. So our main diagnosis was ST elevation in inferior and the lateral leads, probably due to the myocardial ischemia. So according to the ESC guideline, what they define as acute myocardial infarction is evidence of myocardial injury, which was evident by the troponin value more than 90 centile with necrosis in a clinical setting consistent with the myocardial ischemia. But in acute setting, we do not have troponin values. So for that case, they have introduced a practical definition. That person, patient with persisting chest comfort or other symptoms suggestive of ischemia and ST elevation in more than 2 contiguous leads considered as STEMI. So we take this definition as a working definition, and what they mention as ST elevation is in a pair, because precordial leads are more closer to the chest leads, their electric activity is a bit higher, so they make V2 and V3 separately. And for the male who are more than less than 40 years, ST elevation should be more than 2.5 millimeters in V2 to V3. Who are more than 40 years, it has to be more than 2 millimeters. For the females, it has to be more than 1.5. Other lead, there should be a 1 millimeter ST elevation. According to that, this patient have more than 1 millimeter ST elevation in more than 2 contiguous lead. So our diagnosis was antero-inferior lateral STEMI. We did some search for the calculation for TIMI score, which was applied for the STEMI patient, which shows what is the risk for the patient after thrombolysis. This is for this patient, it calculated around 23% within 30 days after thrombolysis, and Phillips score on admission patient categorized under class 2 Phillips score, but within a couple of hours he was under the class 4 with cardiogenic shock, but on the admission, his mortality around 5 to 12. Gray score is measuring the overall mortality, considering the history, examination, and the investigation finding. It was around 17% for this patient. So when after taking the history and examination and investigation, we start the management. Actually, everything is went hand in hand, but for the presentation purpose, I will discuss separately. So after the confirming the diagnosis, we take the patient to the resus area and we connect the patient to the defibrillator and cardiac monitor. According to the 2017 ESC guideline, they recommended to once after you diagnose the STEMI, connect the patient to the defibrillator, because the patients who are having STEMI can develop very fatal arrhythmias. If the patient develop ventricular fibrillation, defibrillation is the only treatment. And we plan to give oxygen if the saturation was less than 90, but patient was on admission, saturation maintained around 97 on air. Initial ESC guideline management, they recommended to give oxygen if the saturation is less than 95. Now new definition is less than 90, we have to give oxygen. We insert 2 white bore cannulae and send blood for the basic investigation and troponin, and start giving stat doses of aspirin, clopidogrel, and atorvastatin. And initially pain was managed with the sublingual GTN because systolic blood pressure was maintained around 90, and patient did not have any contraindication. There was no signs of right ventricular failure, but it was not patient was not responding. We started IV morphine with antiemetics, and we discussed with the ET physician regarding whether the patient need PCI or thrombolysis. So for this patient, according to the ECS guideline, the time frame like this. So now they have introduced a first medical contact. First medical contact means somebody who can take the ECG and interpret and take appropriate action. So this patient admitted to the hospital around 1:55 a.m. and at same time, doctor has seen the patient. We seen the patient, and we have taken the ECG within 5 minutes of admission. So the recommended time to take the ECG and make a diagnosis of STEMI is within 10 minutes. We have done it within 5 minutes. Thereafter, we have to consider whether to go for the thrombolysis or PCI. For the PCI capable center, we can just go for the PCI within 90 minutes, but better to have a target of 60 minutes. If it is PCI non-capable center, then we have to consider whether we can transfer the patient to PCI possible center within 120 minutes or go for the fibrinolysis. If the patient cannot send to the PCI, then we have to start the fibrinolysis within 10 minutes time. Even though the Karapiti Hospital is PCI capable center, there 24-hour and 7 days facility is not there. At that time, the patient couldn't be offered primary PCI, so we decided to do thrombolysis. We look for any contraindication for thrombolysis. There were no contraindication, but while preparing for SK infusion, patient developed hypotension, and we give IV normal saline 250 bolus with care because patient already had some lung congestion, and started dobutamine initially with 5 mics per kg per minute, and it was titrated to maintain the systolic blood pressure above 100. But on dobutamine 10 mics, patient's blood pressure was not pick up, so we increased the dose of dobutamine maximum up to 20 and added noradrenaline. And start streptokinase 1.5 million units in 100 milliliters of normal saline over 1 hour. According to the ESC guideline, they recommended to start thrombolysis within 10 minutes of admission, but we have taken actually around 1 hour to start the thrombolysis. The problem was initially patient was hypertensive, so we have to manage that problem, and we have to contact the cardiology people and take their opinion. So it takes actually around 1 hour to start streptokinase in this patient. This is the flow how to do the fibrinolysis. After first medical contact, within 10 minutes, we have to diagnose the ST elevation MI, and within, if we are not cannot offer primary PCI, then we have to do fibrinolysis within 10 minutes of diagnosis of STEMI. So what was the recommended thing is started clot specific treatment for the fibrinolysis. Clot specific treatment for the clot. Can you hear? What recommended is to use fibrin specific agents for the fibrinolysis, and started best to start it within 12 hours, and the results are best if we can start if the patient is presented within 2 hours of symptoms. But unfortunately, our hospital did not had tenecteplase at that time, so we offered him streptokinase. This is the ECG. What after starting the SK, this is the ECG pattern noted in the defibrillator. There was reperfusion arrhythmia, and he was went on to a VT cardiac arrest. So we gave him 200 joules of electric shock, then started CPR. The next rhythm was this. it was a VF cardiac arrest. Then again another 200 joule of shock was delivered to the patient and CPR was continued. And the next rhythm was pulses electric activity. And we have given in after the third rhythm assess, we gave 1 in 10,000 adrenaline with 1 vial of atropine to the patient and continue CPR. On the fourth rhythm assess, this was the rhythm strip, and patient had sinus rhythm with a pulse, and BP recorded 68 by 52 mercury millimeters, and patient was conscious with GCS of 15 out of 15, and SK completed at around 4 a.m. and repeat ECG was taken after 45 minutes, and there were Q waves developing with ST elevation more than 50% resolving. So, but after the SK, patient persistently go into VT arrest, and he was needed shock under the sedation of midazolam, and therefore we started amiodarone infusion following 150 bolus. Because of the persisting arrhythmia, we contacted the cardiology unit, and there was no major input from them. They asked to continue the amiodarone infusion. We did the ABG. It shows some acidosis with carbon dioxide retention, and there was a hypoxemia with 15 liters of oxygen, and electrolyte was normal. So we intubated patient electively because of the unstable cardiac rhythm and the hypoxia. The ventilator settings make with the FiO2 80% with tidal volume 415 with IE ratio 1.2 and PEEP of 6 and respiratory rate 12. After 30 minutes on ventilator, patient's ABG shows a mild improvement on acidosis, but carbon dioxide retention was the same, and oxygen partial pressure of oxygen improved. Our target was to titrate the FiO2 to maintain partial pressure around 80 to 100, and we adjust the respiratory ratio and the IE ratio to maintain the PaO2, PCO2 around 35 to 45. So once the patient is stable on inotropes and maintaining the blood pressure around 130 by 85, we started to wean off the inotropes while patient developed hypertension again. So the blood pressure was 79 by 46, and we reassess the patient and check for the infusion line and the cannula whether the drug is properly delivering, but there was no fault with that. So we use bedside ultrasound scan to rule out the causes for the hypertension. The cardiac activity contractility was bit reduced, probably due to the cardiogenic shock, and there was no pericardial effusion suggestive of tamponade. There was no RA or RV dilatation suggestive of pulmonary embolism, and our IBC was not collapsible with the respiration. Possibly he is not fluid responsive, and because of the cardiac congestion. And ultrasound scan of the chest show bilateral B lines in the lower zone, probably due to the pulmonary edema. There was no evidence of tension pneumothorax, and aorta shows no intimal flap. So deadline ultrasound scan, our conclusion was patient is in a cardiogenic shock complicated with acute pulmonary edema. So what we did was we titrate the inotropes to maintain inotropes and the vasopressors to maintain the systolic blood pressure more than 100, and we started IV furosemide 5 milligram per hour infusion. Meanwhile, cardiology people see the patient and did a bedside 2D echo and found to have 40 to 45% ejection fraction with mild ischemic left ventricular dysfunction with inferior wall hypokinesia. What they recommended is started enoxaparin after the SK, started enoxaparin 40 milligram BD and continue antiplatelets and continue amiodarone infusion because he having arrhythmias after the reperfusion, and maintain the blood pressure with inotropes and asked to wean off gradually and reduce the furosemide infusion, and once the patient extubated, asked to send the patient to the CCU. So other management we have done for this patient. He was a diagnosed patient with diabetes. So we initially monitored the patient CVS 2 hourly and gave him soluble insulin to maintain the target blood pressure, target blood sugar of less than 180. And he was sedated with midazolam in first 24 hours and intermittent paralysis with atracurium. And patient was catheterized and urine output was monitored. And he was given IV normal saline 60 milliliters infusion with assessing his vitals for fluid responsiveness, and ranitidine and maxolone was continued, and enoxaparin continued for 48 hours. IV furosemide gradually cut down and infusion cut down and started on regular furosemide doses, 20 milligram PDS. Then after initial 24 hours, once he is recovering from the cardiogenic shock, we started cavidolol 3.1 to 5 milligram PD and anti-platelet and the statins was started. So on day 2 of ETU, patient was extubated with GCS of 12 out of 12, and patient was sent to the coronary care unit. What about this rescue PCI in this patient, whether it is indicated or not? Rescue PCI is indicated for the patients who are having ST elevations. Resolving ST elevation is less than 50% after the thrombolytic treatment, or who are hemodynamically unstable or electrically unstable after the treatment. And if the patient is having persisting ischemic or persisting chest pain, rescue PCI is indicated. Actually, this patient is indicated for PCI, but he cardiology people decided to manage patient with medical. So that's all. Thank you. Time for discussion.
No, not really. Because I thought that we have already explained. Otherwise, otherwise we forget the things. So, can you go back to the slide?
So I should take it to begin that. Then you click it, it goes back. So you can go to the special.
otherwise. Okay, I'll talk like this. Second thing. Okay, anyway, now this is a patient with chest pain. So, can you just tell me that what are the things that you have seen in presentations? What are the problems with that management? Did you notice any problems, or did you notice all things were went well, or went well? There were problems. So basically, just can you just tell me that what are the, I mean, the broad way categorize the problems, what are the basically major problems that we come with? You want aspects. Right? Time timing of
Trying to
read the ECG.
ESG calculate, we are recommending first from the symptom to the ECG, we have to take 10 minutes, and then
Additionally,
then from what I should be within
there was a problem, but it was actually a practical problem. We know that all the guidelines says that it's time limit, but it is not sometimes practical in our setup. But what you are saying is correct, that the 60 minutes, more than 60 minutes, the formalities. What else? Okay, the blood pressure management with the iron forms. Right.
The fluid also. After blowing circulation,
Yeah.
fluid bolus, I think is not enough.
Not enough.
yes, see,
Right.
suggestion of RV function, and then we will go for this E4R or E3R.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we have taken the
ECG was not done.
ECG, but I do not have the photos.
You have got them
Yeah.
before with you.
Yeah, and also posterior is also negative.
So there was a
It is shows that
function.
RV function, then we can give fluids,
Yeah.
more fluids than this 250 ml.
The patient is having inferior plus laterally the positive, then unlikely to be a RV.
Before what was it?
V4 is negative, negative
One
in normal.
negative.
Yeah,
Normal.
there is no ST elevation, and AV V4 6 was ST elevation.
Yeah, that's
So
right. That's like there's a complex artery involved. That's the thing. So it's
That's
just
why
not
we-
pure
yeah.
artery.
started.
Right. Any other things that basic? I mean, that broadly, if we discuss about like management of some of the facts in the guidelines, so we can go as exactly. There are some sort of a practical problems. And what about the management of the EL? That's the shock. Ergonomic. Shock of the non-shock of the flexibility. Did you notice anything?
Second the equation was the water can work
Okay, what is? It is 360, that is in the phase.
But in our defibrillator, first one is 150, then the maximum can be delivered is 200.
200, so that is okay, fine. What is? The second shock. Right, we'll go through one side by side. I just want to tell the first thing is that we should look at these cases as the emergency patients, not as the cardiologists or physicians. Because we have to, I mean, that there are a lot of guidelines. Once you finish the exam, you will realize that most of the stuff they are asking is not the guidelines. So, as an emergency physician, we have basically, I thought that basically two things we have to do. One thing is that we have to exclude or identify life-threatening conditions. So, we have to manage and stabilize the patient. Second thing is that if there are no any life-threatening conditions, we should decide whether this patient should be discharged or admitted. So, basically, these two things we have to do, right? So, all the stuff what we are going to learn should be in and around these two stuff. So, in between that those are things in the guidelines, right? So, just adhering strictly to the guidelines doesn't mean that we have managed properly. Sometimes we may miss a lot of things as emergency issue. So, what I'm going to tell you about the things that how we approach the patient as an emergency department, right? So because it's a very busy department, and we are not in a way of mood. That this patient presented around 3 a.m. So that 1 a.m. So it's the worst time and the worst case, right? So can we get in a clear mind and can we approach the clear mind to the sort of plan, right? So that is the thing. So first I should tell about the positive things of the presentation. That actually that she somehow, well, in the karate, that people have gone to the karate, know that most of the stuff we can manage, but the problem is PCI. Right? Sometimes it's very difficult to negotiate with the cardiologist. Right? So in that case, somehow she was able to manage the things properly. What I found is that none of the guidelines you missed in the case. These basic things. Those are basic things, right? First thing was that I just want to tell you that as emergency physicians, we have to know all these very properly about this algorithm of the shockable, unshockable management, right? We should not do any mistakes in that cases. We can do mistakes with the thrombolysis PCI, sometimes minor mistakes, but we can't do mistakes on the algorithms, right? So, the first slide, patient complained of chest pain, and so what could be the case history? What is the first thing that's going to the head? This is a very severe chest pain, and could be cardiac, right? And patient was 50 years of age. There is bit of a dilemma because in a midline after some semester differential diagnosis. Right? Shall we go to the next slide? And then the history, past history also suggesting some sort of diabetes, so that's possible. We can present it atypical chest pain. This is sort of an atypical chest pain, right? Okay, so next slide. Okay. Management. Right, history, the examination. Examination, there was a bradycardia with hypotension and evidence of heart failure as well, right? So that means this patient is unstable. So patient is having an unstable chest pain, right? So that is the first thing that we have to consider when we are going for the differential diagnosis. So what is the first thing we have to do in unstable chest pain? As emergency. Patient is unstable and having serious central chest pain. Resuscitation. Right? Any unstable conditions, you have to do resuscitation. You shouldn't go for the history or examination. Right? So I think you did the same thing. That the patient was unstable, so you put cannula, put oxygen, and cardiac monitor, all those stuff. So that is right. And here, actually, since the patient's pain is suggestive of cardiac, and with the hypotension and bradycardia, we should have to the involvement of the right ventricle and inferior infarction, right? But sometimes it's possible to get extensive anterior ischemia as well, right? Okay, next slide. Sanju, you can taking this. And acute coronary syndrome was the first diagnosis. That's correct. But aortic dissection, that's what are the things that she got as a differential diagnosis for correct. Because compared to the age, right? So,
so actually, there are different categories about chest pain. So one is that patient present with the chest pain. It may be cardiac, maybe blooding, maybe musculoskeletal. Cardiac chest pain may be secondary ACS, aortic dissection, or aortic syndromes. And bloodic type chest pain usually due to the pneumonia, pulmonary embolism. So musculoskeletal may be due to the prostatitis. In addition to that, other classification is life-threatening conditions and non-life-threatening conditions. Life-threatening conditions are cardiac and pulmonary conditions, whereas non-life-threatening conditions are musculoskeletal. So, every chest pain, that mind we have to analyze.
So ECG, right? So you had a problem with whether there's other possibility of non-cardiac things. Why did you do that?
Actually,
Because of the appearance of the ST elevations.
no, actually, the purpose of doing case-based discussion, I included
So,
this.
I'm not going to just detail about those things because I think I'm sure you do those things. So that's differential.
And program.
Any problems?
Like we see here, we can answering that we are using the heat and heat in separating previous elevation. Sometimes heat 3 elevation is more than heat. Sometimes heat 2 elevation is more than heat 3. How? What is the importance of
Yeah, that is important because we have to find that in inferior study whether there's a flex circumflex arteries involved. Sometimes it's a lateral extension, so it's not, it may not be pure right coronary artery. So in that case, if it is 3 is more than 2, it is suggestive of right coronary artery. But if it is not there, it could be left circumflex involvement as well. And remember that the dominance of the arteries as those are bit of very advanced things, and we are not in sort of a question to identify those sort of things. First, we have to explore, but those are things those are nice to know because we can argue with someone, we can say that we have a bit of a proper knowledge, but those are not essential in the ED, right? So, okay, this investigations and now we see investigations and definition. So, what do you know about the definition of capillary myocardial infarction?
So what is the definition of the acute myocardial infarction? Alish?
Yeah, you could hold that this would be an interactive session.
Yes. What is the
Presentation.
Evaluation of depletion of the cardiac biomarkers plus one of the following those are the history suggestive of ischemic type chest pain or ECG changes, ST elevation to into consecutive chest beats more than one or wing beats more than one or tube waves and the wall motion abnormalities in echo and during PCI you can see the thoughts of the class and the postmortem findings of the
Okay. What are the pathological clues? How you define pathological clues? Huh? More than?
One is small square, one are wide than one small square, and equal than one small square. More than one third of the testing.
one small square and more than one small square and more than one small square.
That was the previous one. Actually, pathological clues by age, so it's somewhat arguable. But this is the V2, V1, V2. We don't get the Q waves. So in that V2, V3 is if the Q wave is more than 20 milliseconds with and 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter high, that is significant. All the rest of the days, 30 milliseconds and 1 millimeter. That is previous one. Usually, initially we thought that pathological Q waves is 1 millimeter wide and 2 millimeter in depth, but now it has changed and it's 30 milliseconds and 1 millimeter. Other than the V2, V2. So V1, V2. And then the ST elevations. So what is the cutoff level of for the ST elevations? What is the cutoff level? I'm asking her. She has talked about the This deals and then the bill deals. I'm talking about other deals. 522 means
In the
And the
posterior read, ST depression in V1 to
Estimation, I'm going to
0.5.
0.5. 522 leads and the first leads will be 0.5, not the 1.
V2, depression. V2, depression point.
V2 I have to do the ST evaluations, not the depression. Depression is 0.5. Correct. I'm going to do the ST evaluations. So, as she told that V2, V3 is according to the age and sex. Case of the is 1 millimeter. But posterior and the right ventricle is 0.5 ST evaluation signal.
and the definition
Yeah, definition, this is easiest consists.
2017 and is that
No, I'm talking about the AHA. This is ESC, no? AHA definition is increasement or reduction of the cardiac biomarker.
In the ESC
Yeah,
guidelines.
cardiac biomarker.
it was mentioned in
99%.
2012, but ESC also, yeah.
Yeah, but
No, this is.
no, this is what they go the guideline. This universal definition of the myocardial infarction was formulated in 2012. There's no relationship with the guideline. Okay. This ESC has taken part of it, AHA has taken part of it, but universal definition was formulated in 2012. There's no relationship with the guideline.
Updated in the ESC.
Yes.
That's what she's telling.
So
Definition
if somebody
still
asks
that.
from us what is the definition,
Definition
then
is increasement or reduction of the cardiac biomarker, particularly troponin, about the 99th percentile with one of the following. That is classical
yeah.
ischemic chest pain, wall motion abnormalities, Q waves, ST segment elevations, and then intracardiac thrombi, which was found in the PCI postmortem.
I thought it is redefined in 2007.
No,
No, this is.
yeah. Celebration of the
So, and here it is increment
What
of.
about the
I got next one.
No, there is one more thing. The increment or decrement of the property or the cardiac enzymes. But this is something new. Previously, we did the property at around 6, after 6 or 8. Didn't do any property on admission. So what is this? Why they add this increment or decrement? Remember, it can be progressive reduce or can be progressive increase. Because you know that at one value of troponin is not suggested any diagnostic value. So they are talking about any change or dynamic change of the value. So remember, troponin is best, but it doesn't mean that CKMB is not best. Right? Both are equally good, but the problem is CKMB, we should have to get the sex validated reference value, right? But not for the troponin. And troponin IT. Troponin T usually they have to take repeat after about 8 hours, but I after about 6 hours. So that's a slight difference. But always remember it should be on admission and we should have repeat after about 6 hours or 8 hours. Right? So if there is an increment or decrement on it, we can just justify, but remember it's not practical because on admission there's a chest pain. We can't wait till 6 or 8 hours. But in suspicious cases, this is the truth, right? There's that non-student, this is basically for the non-student, it's very practical. And it is 99 centile, it's not 95%, right? It is 99 centile because the positive predictive value is very high. And other thing is this property that Sanjay will talk about this property, we know that high sensitive cardiac property, right? That is the best. But we don't have high sensitive cardiac property right now in our system. Okay. What do you think about this?
Is this applicable to them?
Ask me. What do you think about this slide? So the case was STEMI, and she's talking about risk certification source.
Yes.
STEMI and
It's for the acute coronary syndrome.
modifying TB we are using for medical discharge or not?
We are asking whether we can apply this to the STEMI. This also apply for the non-STEMI.
Risk stratification
And
for
also for the
non-STEMI.
atypical chest pain, not for the STEMI.
Why we are doing this stratification? Why did
I thought the TB has separate non-STEMI and
yeah,
STEMI.
there is
and
STEMI part also there. But
Yeah.
modifying
And also Calypso we can apply for the
because of the heart failure
yeah.
in the background of acute
yes.
And what
And the Glasgow also they in the calculator they have mentioned this is for the acute coronary syndrome. They have never
That
mentioned.
doesn't mean it's for the.
STEMI, it's not for the STEMI. So
They
this
but
stratification-
they what they looking for is overall mortality within.
The point of chest pain, you can apply it.
Yeah,
Oh, already
Oh, no,
diagnosed.
diagnosed.
Yeah.
It's no point of
No, that was no point, it's no point in going for the TB.
Remember, this stratification is we are assessing the mortality and whether this patient can be discharged or not, whether this patient needs any thrombolysis or not. Those are the things, right? So if the patient is having, I mean that they need to have a ECG and chest pain suggestive, and or sometimes there's no chest pain, ECG is normal right now. Then whether we can discharge or not, we can apply the grace, right? So if it is an unstable, whether we have to do it urgently, I mean that you know about coronary angiogram should be done within 2 hours in non-stable, right? So that is for the high risk patient. So risk stratification is applicable in those things in cases we can apply, but not for the STEMI. Already we know that patient need thrombolysis surgery. So PCI urgent, we don't want to apply, and mortality is semi-high, so we don't want to calculate. So this calculation is also basically for the one thing is for the reperfusion, whether need early reperfusion or it can be taken for about 24 hours, or it should be done in 2 hours, or whether patient can be discharged or not, right? So that is for the risk stratification, right? Okay. What are the things in this slide?
About the management, like after diagnosing technical resuscitation, patient comes.
No, I think already patient was on a resuscitation bed because of the
Because- I can't actually
Yeah,
otherwise
that's
presenting
right.
to you the case.
So resuscitate. And so this is that the patient's having unstable chest pain. Now patient moved to the resuscitation bed. And in relevant to the chest pain, what are the things that in the resuscitation, what we are going to do? So ABCD, basically position. What is the position? It is a comfortable posture. Remember, right? Acute coronary is not supine, maybe prop up. Right? Basically, what we're doing prop up. This patient already having heart failure, so need prop up posture. So whatever the suitable posture. So remember that this is pure cardiac one, but if it is not like pericarditis, they are not even not in prop up posture. They want seated posture and lean forward. Right? So whatever the best way. So then oxygen. This is correct, right? Now they are recommending saturation less than 90% or if they are in respiratory distress. Those are two indications that we have to put oxygen. And remember, we don't know how we can put oxygen. How did you put oxygen?
You can unread later on. Yeah, unread in there.
So what did you do? Venturi.
Yes, initially we put Hudson mask.
That is those are things that practically what we want. Usually they are recommending is nasal drops, right? What we want keep saturation more than 90%. So in nasal drops with 2 to 4 liters is more than enough. Have you ever seen that in overseas that in foreign countries, whether they are putting masks for the usually they are putting nasal drops, right? So nasal drops is more than enough to keep the saturation. But if it is not keeping enough, we have to go for the napkin. Right. And cannula. How many cannulas we have put? Yeah, you know everything about the guidelines here, only the practical things that recommend. So in resuscitation, anyway, all the patients with life-threatening injuries, they have to put token. Somehow you have to put token, but wait, if we are going to put a one cannula, please put very large cannula, more than 80 inch, right? So because one thing in case of chest pain, one for the thrombolysis or whatever thing, other for the resuscitation drugs, take the administration, right? And so the patient was initially attached to cardiac monitor, that's right, and connected to defibrillator. Remember, not only defibrillator, pacing also should be there, right? So remember, in arrhythmias in background of the acute coronary syndrome, usually not drug responsive. So it is a pacing, right? So cutaneous pacing is the best, right? Then they have sent investigations. So, what about the age? In the UK, they are actually recommending at least venous blood gas during the resuscitation chest pain patients just for the analysis of electrolytes. So, because sometimes you know that hyperkalemia, they can present with stroke. We had same case managed as cardiac stroke, but it was hyperkalemic state, right? Because they have that initial false ST elevation, single ST elevations. So for those purposes we can assess, but in our setup we don't want exactly same those things. We don't have because it is bit of a cost. But if you can do, it is practical that you can send the venous blood gas as well to the quick assessment. And right, adjust any dose.
It's recommended 80, but we are practicing.
No, actually, the practice will change. If it's stop, not need to continue it. So now we are talking about high intensity statins. That is good that now recently, that is around 2014, that we have done a research and found out there's no point of giving small doses of atorvastatin, that is 10 to 20, but only the evidence-based medicine prove that high intensity atorvastatin has a proven benefit.
I asked the question from the Merlin sir. What he said is this research and everything is practice for the white people.
Yeah, that's what
So once they have found that
yeah, that's one argument they are telling about the physics of the Asian people. Sometimes it's very high dose, the 80 milligram. So that is a bit of argument.
So,
and what is this high intensity? What do you mean by high intensity? Is a reduction of the LDL level more than 50%. So that is high intensity. And
all these are normal, usually using this atrocity you mentioned.
Then high intensity, yeah,
that means
that is high dose. Dose. The dose is what is that is for high intensity, right? And as we talking, okay, if you have suspicion, I mean this is not this case, but if you are suspicious of this chest pain, but you didn't confirm the chest pain as a cardiac one. So what are things that you can do? Practically, we know that in ETU, you should come with chest pain, but you then have to wait ECG. Till then, what are things that you can do?
We can do
energy
anything.
doses, all the things as we completed in GP.
We can do analgesics for the pain and atorvastatin, but after excluding the iodic dissection and things, we can.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, good session, but usually they are saying you can give aspirin. Right? Aspirin, 3 dose, 300 milligram you can give, and atorvastatin you can give, but not the copy. Right? Once it is these suspected cases, you can do aspirin, but confirmed cases you have to start from. Right? And for the pain, right? What do you think about the management?
My question is regarding clopidogrel. That guideline for the above 75 years and below 75 years. With the above 75 years, we need to
not giving bonus. 75.
Give 300.
Yeah. Not giving 300, just 75. That's because of the leading business side. What about the pay? People from back.
Okay.
Opioid is best.
Opioids.
Opioid is best. Why not GTN? All also has all theories. No, actually, GTN has place. You know that GTN is a very good advantage compared to morphine because it can revert ST elevation, especially in the case of ischemia. The patients having underlying ischemia, but there's no infarction. Because of the vasodilation, these ST elevations can revert back with the GTN. So now they are recommending IV GTN infusion, low dose, about 5 to 10 micrograms per minute. Right? So what they are telling is that in non-STEMI, you can start sublingual GTN. And if the patient's pain is bit of responding, you can continue, but you can't continue GTN sublingual continuous. So then you can start small dose of IV GTN. But in case of STEMI, you can start IV GTN as the first one, right? The target is that we should not reduce the blood pressure. Because with the GTN, the drastic blood pressure can be dropped. Especially in normotensive patient, if the reduction is less than 10%, that's fine. So our target is to be normotensive and in a hypertensive patient, it should be less than 30%. It should be less than 30%, right? So there should be a drastic reduction of the blood pressure. Another thing is that the pain must be the ultimate outcome. It should not be total 10 pp. We are not aiming for total 10 pp with IVG. But we can do it more, right? Because if you are going for the total 10 pp, patient's blood pressure can be crashed, right? So we can start sublingual GTN, IV GTN. IV morphine is a good drug as a second one. The patient is not responding to GTN and you have doubt about the blood pressure, you can start with morphine. And what about Maxolone with morphine? We are giving Maxolone with morphine because patients can have nausea. This patient had nausea, that's why you started. So that's good suggestion because if patient is not having vomiting or nausea, we don't want to start Maxolone with the morphine. Remember, we can isolate the start morphine. Right?
Give morphine without medicine, they start vomiting.
No. If you're doing practice, you will see that. Just try on that in patients when they come. If they're having nausea with feeling, you have to give. But even if there's no nausea, only just a pain, you just give morphine, they're not vomiting. Right? It needs some sort of high doses, right? Sometimes. So, and another thing is you can go in for the infusion as well. Morphine is, you don't want to, you can give it regular doses, right? Sometimes you're afraid of the morphine. So we can give 0.1 milligram per kg.
The medication is inferior lateral.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And the blood pressure is 90 around 6 a week.
Yeah.
It's suspicious.
That is the one thing that
we can't predict only from ECG. This is the right ventricle incline. It is a very transient event. And giving morphine in the what is your thing?
Actually, morphine maintain the cardiac results more
GTH.
Yeah, GTN you should avoid in
Yeah.
injury, no doubt. But morphine is still you can give, even though that it causes hypertension in different ways. One is the systemic, because other one is the reduction in symptomatic blood, and sometimes it's dilatation. But in a way that it maintains the cardiac index, that means that it will pump blood constant amount to your tissues, even though the blood is reduced. That's one argument. So they are usually recommended to give 4 to 2 milligram boluses every 15 minutes you can give.
Here actually that since the patients are inferior STEMI, you better to just mean that you can start small dose of morphine because sometimes the blood pressure was crashed later, though there's no any for elevation. So better be careful with the inferior STEMI. But other cases you have to give analgesics. And then so PCI or thrombolysis. What she was telling was exactly correct. So now the guideline has revised, and previously that for the thrombolysis we are getting about 30 minutes to decide on thrombolysis. Now it is 10 minutes. And first medical contact is the once patient come to the ECU and you have got the ECG, and then should be decided by consultant or whoever the physician that this patient is having a ST elevation. So that is the first medical contact. From that time onwards, we are talking about this pre-perfusion, right? So it is 10 minutes, not the 30 minutes, and neither to balloon time is not in current guidelines, right? 6 minutes is not there. So directly we are talking about the PCI. PCI, it is 60 to 90 minutes in the PCI center, otherwise it's 2 hours, that's correct. And what about the initial half an hour? Initial half an hour, what is the best? PCI or thrombolysis?
Again, the PCI is the best. One.
PCI is the best.
No, initial 2 hours, it's
Thrombolysis.
17% absolute mortality reduction.
That is because
First 2 hours.
SARC is not the agent that we are giving any escape. Anyway, for example, this is they are talking about this thrombolysis specific thrombolysis. So because the plaque is getting harder and harder with the time, that is why they are talking about the PCI is more effective in the after 2 hours. Initial half an hour actually is best. We can go with the thrombolysis, and the more we can, all the things are equal in PCI and thrombolysis.
Does that mean thrombolysis and PCI is equal, or thrombolysis is better than?
Yeah, so both are equal. So PCI is a bit of a cost demand, and it takes some resources. So it's better we can start because if we can start earlier the thrombolysis, patients' survival is and the patency is increased. So that is why we have to start earlier. That is why 30 minutes reduced to 10 minutes. Right? So earlier the better is better. Contraindications, you know about the relative and absolute contraindications. Anyway, in chest pain patients, always better to ask about the contraindications because even sometimes aortic dissection. So we are going for the surgical things and bleeding risk should be assessed, right? So irrespective of the stage, we are going to
Actually, we had one case of aortic dissection where I give one of our ECMO initially had given we can't claim it as being particular and even but luckily that the nurse had not given the aspirin and particular by mistake. Nothing was happened. Patient was somehow managed to escape.
Especially that aortic dissection, suspect if it is not tally with the territory. Sometimes inferior and anterior ST elevations, right? Especially inferior and anterior ST elevations, you always ask about more in aortic dissection, right? And okay, so scale infusion, right? Only right now that you are giving the fluid boluses because there was no any blood pressure drop initially. There was a drop, but you didn't suspect right ventricular infarction. But you can give fluid boluses, right? So what we are doing is we are giving a pressure effect, right? Ventricle, giving fluid and pulling out the thrombolic and cardiac.
If the patient is having a fetus of failure like basal palpitations like that,
Yeah, that is it. That means a congestive cardiac pain.
Yeah, on admission he had basal fine palpitations.
So then left ventricular. But here that is because of the left circumflex is involved, left ventricular is going up. That is the thing that patients having left ventricular rather than right ventricular flow. This could be due to cardiogenic shock.
So then can we give boluses?
Yeah, that depends on how you have to assess fluid status. That what you do was you need the echo and the scan and assess the V profile. So you can justify that. One lot to it.
So what is cardiogenic shock?
Poor perfusion due to cease of cardiac activity, cessation of the cardiac activity.
Actually, cardiogenic shock is a state where there are 3 criteria. Now only I can give you 2 criteria. One is persistent hypotension, that is less than the 90 mmHg for about 30 minutes, or it's evidence of poor perfusion. That is altered mental state, reduced urine output, and cold tummy extremities.
But if it is
heart failure is different.
No, anaphylaxis like how we differentiate.
It's cardiogenic shock is a different.
Yeah, but with that definition,
that is for the cardiogenic shock. That is for the shock. That
she's talking
secondary to
about
the
that. One criteria for that,
Yeah.
that shock is that.
shock is a different. That is shock from
Pressure is-
shock. Shock is a different. It has a different definition, but this cardiogenic pressure has a different definition. This is below 2015 definition. Heart failure is what is heart
In the
failure?
background of ST elevation, coronary elevation, right?
One is the persistent hypotension that is defined by the blood pressure less than 90 mmHg for about 30 minutes with evidence of low coagulation, organ coagulation. That is alternate medical state, reduced renal output, organ coagulation. These are the criteria I can't remember right now. That is 2015 right now.
So, cardiogenic shock is clinical condition of inadequate perfusion due to cardiac dysfunction. Definition includes the following hemodynamic parameters. One, persistent hypotension, that is systolic blood pressure 82 less than 890 mercury, or mean arterial pressure 30 millimeter lower than baseline, with severe reduction in cardiac index. And adequate to elevate filling with adequate or elevate filling pressure.
That is a second criteria. Third one is a poor organ coagulation. That is your using. And what is heart failure? Those are the basics that you should know. Should be for that. So that is again defined by the symptoms, signs, and then the functional law, structural functional impairment of the heart. So is this management is correct? Now the patient is on cardiac shock, and she has started reviving.
The blood pressure is less than 90.
As the blood pressure is low, we have to go to vasopressor first and then the nodular.
What is the demarcation?
90.
In addition to that, what else we should do? Actually, there is no concrete evidence about this management of the cardiac shock. Still, is doubtful, but still they say if the patient has inadequate cardiac contractility, if you can detect by doing an ultrasound echo, then you can go for WRB, provided the blood pressure is slightly low. But if the blood pressure is like 70, first option should be the current, not the WRB.
What about going for 20 miles per kg per high dose in a
So the treatment what it does is that it increase the heart rate and contract it. Ultimately, you will lose the systolic vascular resistance.
So, in patient with hypotension, going for 20
Because
miles
why?
per kg,
Usually what they are doing, usually practically
No,
what
we
they
don't
are starting
dopamine-
with 20, then you have
dopamine
to
is correct.
ideally it should be 5, 10 like usually what they are doing. That the pressure is crashing, we start with high doses.
Dopamine has high doses vasoconstricting it.
Yeah, but WRB has high doses, that's vasodilating.
Even so, the low doses also gives iron dilate. So that is why they are not recommending to start if this blood pressure is dropping, because there's initial reduction of the blood pressure further because of this reduced autofactor resistance. That is why WRB, if it is a cardiac impairment is reduced, then think about WRB with the added of low dose of currently in case of tension.
In this case, the heart rate is of 80, so starting value would be very heart rate. So that's a little of the dominating and added treatment.
Actually,
Why we want to increase heart rate?
Heart rate, but actually sometimes they can go further.
Yeah, that's right. What in this case, why we want to increase the heart rate?
critical
Because it
safety.
increase heart rate from 50, if it go further down into the cardiac growth.
So that's good.
So sometimes it might be due to the secondary, not the primary, secondary to the NORAD, maybe the primary impairment of the conduction.
It actually gets happened.
So this is a conduction defect, right? There's a conduction defect because of this coronary involvement. So in MI, what is the usual heart rate? You can see that in cardiology, they really worry about if there's a 78. They want a 60 because it increases oxygen consumption and further increase the ischemia. So that's why lower the heart rate is better unless if the blood pressure is not crashed. Right? We don't want to increase the heart rate. The eye drop is not a concept of increasing heart rate. And what you are telling is correct. So then we have to worry about that whether we have no temporary TPM or right? Pacing. Because this heart rate is dropped not because of the eye drop per se, because of the conduction drop. Mean is also same. It's the eye dilate. It has not proven effect on the coronary artery disease, but it has some effects in, especially in the myocarditis. You can start mirroring, but I don't think any articles. Yeah, that's one advantage compared to dobutamine, but have there any
Actually, in Europe 2017, there's a chapter regarding cardiac shock. The slide, Snoren. Second, dobutamine. That is provided that if the patient has a cardiac contract problem. Third one, using and then only if patient goes on beta blockers. Okay. Fourth thing is aortic valve. Provided that is only for the bridging therapy. At the such time that you are will be doing PCI or CAV. Fourth thing is left ventricular assisting device. That is also bridging. Milrinone only has a place in anaphylaxis if the patient was on beta. Sorry. In case of beta blocker poisoning and calcium poisoning.
Sometimes myocarditis also. Dengue also. But still, they haven't included in the guideline. So what we can go with noradrenaline, then dobutamine, safer. It's noradrenaline safer, and we shouldn't go for the high dose.
But if the patient has conduction problems, we can add maybe dopamine.
Adrenaline is the best. So you can go with the adrenaline as well, even without noradrenaline, because it has anti-protection as well. Okay. So what is the best thing here? That patients you have started escape. While giving escape, the blood pressure is looking what are things that you do? Yeah. What you can do? You can slow down the escape. You don't want to stop. Because what is our target is to somehow repurpose the block target. So if you are going to stop and wait, that whatever we are expecting is will not be achieved. So you can slow down and give the infusion, but this is mostly occurring the fast infusion.
This is while actually preparing for the testing.
Then preparing. So in that case, this patient needs the patient's blood pressure is dropping. After SK, while SK, or before the SK, they can go for the PCA. That is the best thing. Right? Because we didn't have the PCA, that's we do the SK. But even after SK, patient's blood pressure is first to drop. So that is the indication for the rescue PCA. So, yeah. Indication for rescue PCA, but unfortunately, first session. Right. So, you know about fibrin specific thrombolytic agent, tenecteplase, Karapidi also there's tenecteplase, and in the NHS there's tenecteplase. So, what about the status rate in the PCI and the thrombolytic? Why we talk about this PCI is better? It's because of the patent resistance. And the reactions are this. Yeah, PCI, but
escape 50%, other one more than
60, nearly 70. It is that the tenecteplase is coming now. Eurokinase is also same as the escape. And alteplase, reteplase we are not giving. Tenecteplase, so you can forget the tenecteplase. It is what we are giving is a single bolus that is very feasible in the ED. That's why we are using tenecteplase. IVL, yeah, IVL, yes, that's one thing. We had a lot of arguments in the Karapidi. So So what do you know about IV enoxaparin?
Even though they recommended to give bolus, we are not practicing.
With what?
Before giving subcut or subcut, they recommended to give
IV enoxaparin.
bolus dose.
Sanjay, can you say?
IV enoxaparin is AHA class 1A recommendation. So, soon after the diagnosis of acute MI, you can give IV 10 milligram bolus, followed after 3 minutes, again you will start the subcut. So, first we are his heart. So, that is their concept. So, with that, you can do this. So, but in Karabiti, unfortunately, some
Yeah,
of
but
the
we had 5 cases. All the masking penetrant.
Huh?
Enoxaparin is a masking penetrant.
No.
Masking penetration.
No, there's no such
Specific
trial.
thrombolysis.
There's no such trial.
Guidelines says that it should be given with the thrombolysis specific, but they have a specific recommendation with the SK. That is the problem.
They have not mentioned the SK,
but they have mentioned that it cannot be used with the SK also. So that's a problem. But you can start with the thrombolysis specific one. Then there won't be any argument. But with the SK, they are huge argument. Because of the bleeding.
So,
But status is very high with the SK also. We had we gave 5 cases. 3 were unrecognized renal failure. That was the problem because you know that in Kharabi usually they have underlying cardiac kidney disease. So treating came after giving IV enoxa, so came as high, but the maximum bleeding was only just a cutaneous bleeding and the puncture bleeding. But none of the cases had any ICH or anything. Even one was 80 or 70 or 75, less than 80. So that should be some sort of a research or trials in our cases because our patients are sometimes different. So whatever that currently they are not talking about the SK, but you have to give with the therapy.
But some other hospital they are practicing.
the aspects with Rosenthal practicing some.
It is practicing Panadura.
So I have never encountered such
Very good.
This was in 2013.
You can let it come down. Alright. So this is the interesting thing. So can you get someone tell us how you can manage a shockable result? Shockable VF or VF? Pulse VD or VF? How you can manage? What is the first thing we are going to do? There's a shock. I mean the VF. Okay, this is a pulseless VD. Already on cardiac attached monitor.
Without any sedation, we have to shock the patient.
No, you have to use sedations, right? Patient is conscious.
But if the patient is hemodynamically crashing, then
Crash, no, you can. Those are, I think, those are not step by step. Those are all our things in horizontal. So one can give midazolam. It is the early defibrillation, the same one. So you can give defibrillation, but you can give the midazolam at the same time.
but then try to find a midazolam and
Yeah, that's practical.
Yeah.
But you can give.
This one had already arrest, not the arrest patient, so why do we need to the arrest patient?
Not for the arrest patients. This is arrest, yeah, but patient, it's not arrest. I mean, the patient is conscious, but you are seeing the monitor. Monitor is beating, and you are seeing the pulses, and there's a pulse, then the patient is arrested. Then you don't want to give midazolam. But this patient is, these are short-lasting arrhythmias in the coronary artery. So those are actually the patient is, though the arrest, you should encounter that patient is again conscious, become conscious and again patient, because the heart is very unstable. So you can, because the patient, once the patient is conscious, patient is struggling with that, and cardiac output is increasing. So that's why they are asking to give low dose of maintenance of midazolam infusion, while you can manage this arrhythmia, because now you can't give, because you have not prepared with that, but the 3 shocks, you get 3 shocks, 2 shocks. No, 3 shocks, no? 2 shocks. Right. So you can go with the maximum juice, right? and earlier as possible. And so 32 ventilations, right? So then VF arrest. But this is the maximum, so you right. So you gave 2 shocks and then it become a non-shockable ring. So what is the condition? 2 shocks. Adrenaline. You can give immediate adrenaline. Now we are going for the non-shockable algorithm. So remember that sometimes we may confuse. Remember, imagine that you have given 3 shocks, and again patient become non-shockable rhythm. So are you giving adrenaline amidro? No, right? This is a non-shockable rhythm. So then forget about the shockable condition, right? So you start with non-shockable. You have to give immediate adrenaline. Why are you giving adrenaline?
It is not recommended, but when there is a bradycardia, we used to give.
They were. In 2010 also, that is not there. 2015 also, it's not there. So you don't want to give adrenaline. Can we okay, and repeat ECG 45 minutes. Why did you do that?
Usually ask them to do between 30 to 1 hour, 30 minutes to 1 hour.
Guidelines
Yeah.
is that when you are going to repeat the ECG in a month after giving this thing.
What is the range of action?
Facebook?
Sure.
That's one thing. This is witness tag.
Monitor.
Witness monitor already attached and it's going here. You can use 3 stacks of shocks. That's one thing recommended in guidelines. In the European one, you can give immediate 3 shocks at once without doing CPR just immediately. That is the witness already attached cardiac lead. Yeah, this is one thing we can do.
Same too.
Same tool, yeah. You are not going to change anything. You just give shock, again charge, again give shocks. 3 shocks at a once.
And it's considered a single shot.
It's considered a single shot. Right. So when you are going to repeat the ECG? Sixty to 90 minutes. Yes. Sometimes in practical you will see that after 60 minutes there won't be any reperfusion. So better to confirm with the 90 minutes. Right? So if you are just hurry on to giving for the rescue PCI or whatever, just wait for 90 minutes. Usually the reperfusion will come.
Even with this electroplate also same.
Whatever the reperfusion is, 6 to 90 minutes. So amiodarone infusion, you again give a shock. Again ETRS. Again
Not arrested, but
It was arrested.
no.
Then why DC shock? It is not arrested. Pulse speed. So you don't want to give shock. Then it is a synchronized cardiac. The blood pressure is fresh. This is patient's blood pressure is fresh. So you can but not the guideline. All are practical things. Very small mistakes that decision making is the problem. So we are in a hurry because since these things happen because she does not she knows everything, but only that in crisis situations sometimes we may forget. Right? So that's why the teamwork. Sometimes someone can start, you don't give like that. Okay, so amiodarone, yes, we can start. Basically, in MI-induced arrhythmias, amiodarone has a good place. So amiodarone infusion we can do. So this one the lactate was 4, the next one is lactate. It's 2.3. So what do you think about that? This is This arrest condition, why we are giving ABG or what is used for ABG? Just to assess the oxygenation. Not only that, to assess the perfusion, right? If the lactate clearance is very fast, that means that spontaneous perfusion has occurred and it's very effective. It's very fast, within months, not within 1 hour. Less than 1 hour. 2 ABGs within 1 hour. There's a 50% reduction of the lactate level. So that means it's very good prognostic finding. So lactate clearance or base excess clearance is very good way of assessing the reperfusion of the arrest patient. So you can do that not only for the oxygenation. And usually, what is the targets of PO2, PCO2 in arrest? We are not targeting for 100. We are not targeting for 100. 60 to 80. Because sometimes hyperoxia also is a risk. So that's one thing. And it's also periodical formation. That's why we are not going for hyperoxia. So basically just for the maintenance of the circulation. And the CO2, 35 to 45 is okay, but they have to specifically mentioned in the MI arrest. Just for the cardiac arrest, this is the post-resuscitation here. But we are targeting. So 35 to 45 is fine. PO2 is 60 to 80. And then we have to consider about the intubation. And because we want to stabilize the patient and give her some rest to the heart. So then we can start infusion of, we start midazolam. What about the other sedations? What do you think about midazolam? What is the best? Midazolam 3 mg power infusion. Patients still on iron drops. So what do you think? Yeah, opioid is better because midazolam also reduce the blood pressure. And 3 mg power is pick up a significant amount. You can start morphine infusion, like 1 mg power. That is soluble, fentanyl, whatever it is short lasting. But it depends on. There's no having fast food. Right? Suppose there's no any proper way of doing it. And so we are giving, this is post arrest condition, so ARDS like non-protective ventilation is what we are. Right, just imagine on this case, if the patient's blood pressure is pick up, we have given all things and now patient is stable. One sudden drop of the blood pressure, what are the possible DTs? So imagine within 20 hours. Yes. Capillary muscle rupture, acute MR. Those are first. So always, if there's sudden drop of the blood pressure, just auscultate heart, whether there's any asystolic murmur or asystolic murmur, and look at the lungs, whether there's a heart failure. So usually they present with heart failure and cardiogenic shock. This myocardial rupture. Those are especially extensive anterior stage. So then why we should know these things? Because starting nitrops is not the answer for those things. You have to go for immediate surgery. So then at least arrange a proper echo and then we can go for cardioplasty. Right. So this was good because always get the bedside ultrasound scan and assess whatever the possible complication. If you can start it earlier, it's better. You don't want to wait till the blood pressure drop. You can start immediately also. Sometimes it takes, sometimes it takes time. Right. So they have added furosemide infusion. The next slide. Okay. What do you think about this? What do you think? Retrospectively, because always it's very easy to criticize retrospectively. People who are doing the things can do mistakes. So we are not criticizing you, the same things we did. So what about the furosemide and you are giving IV 60 ml power? what is you are feeling and you are also diagnosing. So remember that if you want to start diabetes, you don't want to feel. So why you want to give 60 ml per hour? Patients already heart failure, overloaded, and AMI. That's just for the maintenance. Why we are giving maintenance? That's for the normal patients to keep their perfusion. This patient's heart, the pump has weakened, so if they are loading, it's also even 60 ml is a huge load for the compromised heart. So we don't want to give fluid, right? What we are targeting is to rid off the excess fluid. So then after that you can think about the intake, right? So that's amazing that even in the boards we are starting 1 liter per 24 hours. We are giving 20 fusamide 40 PDAs, right? For the MI patients, for the initial 24 hours. We don't want. So they are not going to die without fluid for the first 24 hours because it's already weak heart. We don't want to start. And they are showing hard and fast rule of starting any place, but they can start orally first. And carvedilol, you start 24 hours to start. Is there any place of acute? Can start. That is for the chronic years. Acute also carvedilol.
As the patient was on inotropes and cardiogenic shock, they delayed the starting.
24, up to 24. What else we can start here? If the patient is not on heart failure,
We can use
24 hours.
oral propranolol. We can use.
Yes, beta blockers we can start and ACE inhibitors. So there are some theories behind that. Beta blocker is very good drug, especially with the thrombolysis. IV beta blocker is very effective, but they are recommending or start oral. You can start metoprolol, right? Because it's a heart specific, and we have the metoprolol IV oral both. And you have to exclude contraindication, then you can start. You know that heart blocks and asthma, COPD. So ACE inhibitors, it's because of the remodeling of the already damaged heart. So they want to start it early as possible because remodeling can start early as possible. That's why, but they are recommending EF is less than 25%. They can start, but they are not. There's no in high fast. But better to start because they are survival rate. Those two drugs we have to start, but that doesn't mean that we should have started the evening. Right? What we are doing is series just to stabilize. The beta blockers ACE inhibitors are not stabilized agent. So they can decide. So and enoxaparin for 48 hours. More than 48 hours we can do. It's not only just for 48 hours. Right. Okay, we talk about this in the science rescue piece. I'll tell you about this. So, anything you want to ask? Alright, okay. Then, one thing that I want to tell you about right now, if we are approaching a patient with chest pain, remember, first thing is just assess the vitals. Assess the vitals and assess whether this patient is having acute chest pain or chronic chest pain. It is less than 7 weeks, it is acute chest pain. So patients, imagine that I'm having a patient with acute chest pain and I check the vitals. That is what we are triaging. The vitals are abnormal. Then you have to go for the two ways, that is abnormal and normal. If it is abnormal, you are dealing with the life-threatening chest pain, right? And then, what is the first step? You have to do resuscitation. So take the patient to resuscitation bay and do ABC. And if the patient is non-life-threatening chest pain, you have more time to assess the patient. Then you can go for the history examination and assessment, but not with the life-threatening chest pain. Then you have to do the quick history taking and assessment within less than 5 minutes. So instead I'm doing it in parallel with the while you are resuscitating patient. So then now you have the patient with abnormal vitals and I'm dealing with the life-threatening chest pain. Now you have to know what could be the cause, differential diagnosis. Then what is the next step that you want to do? This is just one. I prepare, but you can just modify the way of approaching. Is the age, I think. Because if we can just deal with the others, character, whatever things, it will take some mind more exhausted. So better if you can, I'm dealing with the young patients with life-threatening chest pain. So then there are separate DDs. And if I'm dealing with the elder patients with life-threatening chest pain, there are different DDs. So what are the DDs in the young life-threatening chest pain? Yeah, less than 40 years. First one to you. Acute MI. Myocarditis. Pericarditis. Spontaneous tension pneumothorax. And pulmonary embolism. So every life-threatening chest pain, first always exclude the cardiac and pulmonary causes. Then you have to go for the GI causes, esophageal rupture, whatever. In the case of patients with elderly with life-threatening chest pain, what is the first thing you come? Acute coronary syndrome and aortic dissection. In others, pulmonary embolism. Right? So that is more feasible rather than going for the DD like that first. Whether it's life-threatening, we will go for if it is life-threatening age, the young or elders. If it is a non-life-threatening one, but on the other hand, how do you differentiate? Whether it's a curative or non-curative. Right? If it is a non-life-threatening, these patients have curative chest pain. If there's a curative, that means you are dealing with pneumonia, progressive pleuritis, simple pneumothorax. If it is a non-curative, that is away from the lung. So it could be heart stable angina is possible, unstable angina, and some GI causes, GORD, peptic ulcer disease, musculoskeletal, and remember angina. There are a lot of cases coming with a severe chest pain with the ETU, with stable patients, so angina or panic episodes. How you can exclude the panic episodes? That you have to ask two questions for the last 6 months. Did you have this sort of spells of palpitation and the SOBI, shortness of breath, right? And yeah, and I'm reviewing the other question. Let's if they are in my presentations, you can just go through that. So if the both, if the answers are yes for the both, then you are dealing with the panic episode, right? So for the last 6 months, the spells of this sort of attacks suggestive of panic. So that's how you can differentiate and assess the patients with chest pain.
Just a few words. Now we thought from January